Imagine me and you, I do. I think about you day and night. It's only right to think about the girl you love and hold her tight. So happy together. If I should call you up, invest a dime, and you say you belong to me, lose my mind. Imagine how the world could be so very fine, so happy together. I can't see me loving nobody but you for all my
Yo.
When you're with me, baby, the skies will be blue for all my life. Me and you and me, no matter how they toss the dice, it had to be. The only one for me is you, and you for me, so happy together. I can't see me loving nobody but you for all my life. When you're with me, baby, the skies will be blue for all my life. Me and me, no matter how they toss the dice, it had to be. The only one for me is you, and you for me, so happy together.
Woo! Hey guys. What's up?
You and me, no matter how they toss the dice, it had to be. The only one for me is you.
What's up?
For me, so happy together. So happy together. And how is the weather? So happy together. We're happy together. So happy together.
I'm number 2 on Mixer? Come on. Web show? Am I? Let me see.
Some girls love to run around.
Good. Dude. April Fool's was yesterday. Come on. Is it on? Not on yet. Let's just chill out a little bit. Self-care. You like oldies? The Birds are good. My mom used to sing this to me a lot. Dude, we fucked. We fucked. fucked. We are fucked.
To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time for love, a time for hate, a time for peace. I swear.
Well, guys. How are you guys doing? How are you doing? Chilling here in New Zealand. You know, I'm trying to think of what. I'm doing okay. Still a little work this morning. I was bummed about the, do you guys hear that Last of Us 2 is delayed? I was looking forward to that. I don't know if you guys are, Last of Us fans, but it's supposed to come out next month. Yeah. I don't know why, though, because, like, why do you need to delay a video game? Everyone's inside playing video games. I guess they're worried about not being able to sell enough. Logistically, the global crisis is preventing us from providing the launch experience our players deserve. What do you think that means? Would have been good to come out now too, right? Like, very thematically appropriate. People going through the apocalypse. Please identify the poor grammar in the following line. A serving of cauliflower rice contains 85% fewer calories than a serving of white rice. Is it 85% less? I always get less and fewer mixed up. What is this? Am I doing your SATs or something? I should, it would be funny to, like, help people with their homework on here. You guys have homework? Does anyone have homework that I could, like, do? This is coming from the latest WSJ style and substance. 85% less calories? Is it 85% less? I don't really know what the difference between... I could do housework for you. What I should do is have people... I should have people, like, give me their assignments and see if I can do them. I don't want to do them for them, though. That's not cool, but, like, if I could do, I don't know, I'm curious if I could get an A on, like, a college, psychology test, you know? In lockdown America, the outdoors is one of the only places left to go. I mean, I think I would say in lockdown America, the outdoors are some of the only places left. It's either the outdoors is one of the only place. It's Because outdoors, the outdoors is singular. I don't know. The outdoors is one of the only places left to go. I don't know. What's wrong about that? Seems right to me. What are you, some kind of genius? Are you some kind of nerd, Ryan? You care about grammar? I don't even care about grammar. I'm a writer. I could not give a shit about grammar. If it makes sense. One of the only places left to go? Why? I say one of the only. If it makes sense... Sorry, I'm just joking. If it makes sense and it sounds okay, I don't really care what the grammar is. Grammar's overrated. Give me some more tests. So let's see if I can On a recent Sunday morning, I clambered over the site's cracked stone steps and found rusting train tracks and giant cogs in the underbrush. There's something wrong with that? On a recent Sunday morning, I clambered over the site's cracked stone steps and found rusting train tracks and giant cogs in the underbrush. First of all, I think that's not a very good sentence. It's like... very vague. It doesn't really paint a good picture of what's going on there. But, clambered. It should be clambered. Clamored is... like when you're yelling for something. Yeah. Wow, there are a lot of these. That revelation led to smart NBA teams like the Golden State Warriors and Houston Rockets hoisting up an unprecedented amount of threes. I guess, I don't know if this is really grammatic error, but it sounds better. I think it would sound better if you said hoisting up an unprecedented number of threes. Is that right? Boom. Dude, I do this every day, all day. All I do is think about sentences. Anybody needs me to edit their college cover letter? It'd be fun. Do any of you guys have like a some sort of piece of writing that you need edited? Because I could do it for you on live. It's a little weird because Gassetti was like, please go out and hike, but don't go to the gym. And there was sort of like tisk tisk announcement, he said. What's Denmark number one? What are you talking about? I mean, I don't know. It's a little weird because Garcetti was like, please go out and hike, but don't go to the gym. And there was this sort of like tisk tisk announcement. I don't know. Like, I would say there's a few commas missing. Does it have to do with commas? little weird because Garcetti was like, please go out and hike, but don't go to the gym. And there was a sort of like tisk tisk announcement. The issue isn't grammar. What about, are you supposed to capitalize the P in please? I don't know. I give up. What is it? Oh, I thought that one, but that's dumb. What do you think? Would you guys watch me live edit something? A piece of writing? Is that just so boring? The company originally targeted raising between 500 million to 600 million in the second round. Ms. Whitman said. Real life Grammarly. What's Grammarly? Oh, wow. I should do that. I didn't even know Grammarly was a thing. Is this something that anybody can sign up for? Oh. Tone detector. Wow. That's weird. Is this popular? They buy many ads on YouTube, huh? I could... None of you guys are in school and have to write papers or anything? I have 53 followers. Maybe somebody, one of my followers is. I'll see if this works. I don't have very many followers though. Thank you for liking it. I only have 53 followers. Retweet this. Put it on Reddit. Put it on the set it. Dude, I think it'd be interesting. I'll edit it. They'll be on the call. This is my kind of content. Don't you want to see what people are writing? Yeah, put it in pause. Don't you want to see? I love editing. I'm a good editor too. The most boring thing. Come on. Have you watched any live stream? People are fucking like... People are taking typing speed lessons. It's a good song.
town on a boat going to southern islands, sailing to reach before a following sea.
What do you think? What do you think they're gonna say today? What do you think they're gonna say at that conference today? Do you think they're gonna announce that everybody should be wearing masks? I think that's what's gonna happen.
Off the wind on this heading line, the Marquesas. You got 80 feet of a water line, nicely making way in a noisy bar.
This one is easier, I think. The company originally targeted raising between 500 million to 600 million in the second round. I would get rid of the first million. You could just say 500 to 600 million. They need to talk about mental health. That's a good point, man. Beep. That's a very good point. Okay. So, company originally targeted raising. I don't know. You've 18 days in ISO now, been out once? Wow. Do you have any, are you living with anyone? Company originally targeted raising between. I don't know, Ryan. I honestly don't know what it is. It is targeted raising sounds a little awkward. It's 500 million to 200 million. Really? That just doesn't seem right. Oh, here we go. Got two kids, 4 and 8, pulled them out of school at the same time. Yikes. That's gotta be tough with those kids at home. I hope you're doing okay. Thick. Oh my god. I've been around.
Okay, thank you very much. Good to be with you all.
I'll figure it out
We're in
later.
a very critical phase of our war against the coronavirus. It's vital that every American follows our guidelines on the 30 days to slow the spread. The sacrifices we make over the next 4 weeks will have countless American lives saved. We're going to save a lot of American lives, and we're in control of our own fate, very much so, maintaining social distance, practicing vigorous hygiene, and staying at home are your most effective ways to win the war and to escape danger. While you're fighting this battle from home, we're working with the best scientists, doctors, and researchers anywhere in the world. We're racing to develop new ways to protect against the virus, as well as therapies, treatments, and ultimately a vaccine, and we're making a lot of progress. I think medically a lot of progress. At the same time, we're also racing to get relief to American workers and small businesses, as you know.
Wear
I
makeup.
want to remind small
I don't
business
know. I
owners
never know
across
what-
America that the
What's up with this?
Paycheck Protection Program is launching tomorrow. Nearly $350 billion in loans will be
They have to
available
identify
to
the
small
product we use,
businesses,
really?
including sole proprietors. These loans are up to 100%
Link it.
forgivable as long as employers keep paying their workers. Got to take care of your workers. Furthermore, we want Social Security beneficiaries to know that if they are typically not required to file a tax return, they don't have to file one in order to receive the direct cash payments that will soon be distributed to American citizens. The Treasury will deposit the money directly into the bank accounts. And don't forget, I will always protect your Social Security your Medicare and your Medicaid. We're protecting Social Security, Medicare and Medicaid, and I always will. I'd like now to invite SBA Administrator Jovita Carranza, who's doing a fantastic job. She's going to be very busy in the next little while, and Secretary Steve Mnuchin to say a few words about these vital initiatives, and then we'll get on to the attack of the virus itself. And please, invite Steve and Jovita.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. And Mr. Vice President, Secretary Mnuchin, Ivanka Trump, and all who I have been working closely with in this effort. Small business is the backbone of the American economy, and the President has put the nation's 30 million small businesses front and center in the response effort, and we are working hard to get money to them quickly. This is an unprecedented effort by this administration to support small businesses, and we know that there will be challenges in the process. Secretary Mnuchin and I are working in tandem to ensure that feedback from our partners is being heard and implemented.
Wow.
The private and public sector must work closely together to ensure that small businesses and their workers across the country are put first. This administration believes wholeheartedly that if you are a small business, you are a critical part of the economic fabric of this country, and your viability is critical to the economic well-being of your employees. At SBA, we are working around the clock to support small businesses, ensuring that we are prioritizing emergency capital for small businesses that are suffering economic harm as a result of this unprecedented situation. This relief will help stabilize the small business sector by providing businesses with the financial resources they need to keep their workers employed and keep up with their day-to-day operating expenses. Today, I want to ensure that small businesses all over the country know about the Paycheck Protection Program and how they can benefit from this.
Trump's brand.
Simply put, the Paycheck Protection Program is to help keep employees on payroll and small businesses open. SBA will forgive the portion of the loan that is used toward job retention and certain other expenses. We are working closely with lenders so that businesses can go directly to their local lenders. Paycheck Protection Program is in addition to substantial work that the SBA has and will continue to do to help small businesses, including providing advances on SBA disaster loans and forgiving existing SBA loan payments over the next 6 months. Additional details on these critically important programs can be found at sba.gov, and we will be updating.
I've been getting a lot of ads for masks recently.
Go out to those affected by this terrible virus. Our communities around the country are stepping up, and we will get through this together.
Instagram ads for masks.
At SBA, we know that every phone call, email, or application submitted has a small business owner, their employees, and the communities they support.
Invest in masks now.
Our most important objective is to allow small businesses to keep their employees on board and keep their businesses viable through this unprecedented disruption. I want to reiterate the importance of patience in this process as we work together to ensure that businesses are able to access needed credit. We will continue working around the clock as we've done with our federal and private sector partners, expanding capacity and working to make our systems as robust as possible to meet the needs.
Get your mask ready. Get your masks. You guys have masks?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Thank you, Jovita. Mr. President, you've made clear to us we now need to execute. We need to get money to small business and American workers, and that's what we're doing. The SBA and Treasury committed to get this program up and running tomorrow, and when Jovita says people working around the clock, we had both teams working till 4 o'clock in the morning and start working again today. We've heard feedback from lenders, community banks, regional banks, and we've spent the last 24 hours making this system even easier. So
got
this will
mass
be up
produced
and
by 3M,
running
Ford
tomorrow.
does
I
masks.
encourage all small
I have
businesses
two.
that have 500 or fewer people, please contact your lenders. Any FDIC institution will be able to do this. Any credit union, existing SBA lenders, and fintech
Yeah,
lenders.
you can't get them anywhere here.
You get the money. You'll get it the same day. You use this to pay your workers.
masked
Please
by
bring your
Neo
workers
4
back to
IC.
work
What's
if
that?
you let them go.
Sounds
You have
fancy.
8 weeks plus overhead. This is a very important program. I'm pleased to announce we are going to raise the interest rate on these loans. And again, the interest rate is paid for as part of the program. The borrower doesn't have to pay this to 1%. We had announced it was going to be 50 basis points. We've heard from some smaller community banks that their deposit costs, even though the government's borrowing at 3 or 4 basis points, this is on average a 90-day loan. To make this attractive for community banks, we've agreed to raise the interest rate. Again, I encourage everybody
is what you have?
take out the Paycheck Protection Program. I'm also pleased to report the economic
That's cool.
impact
It's kinda
payments.
sexy.
I had previously said this would take us 3 weeks. I'm pleased to report that within 2 weeks, the first payments will be direct deposit into taxpayers' account. And as the president said, last night the president
is the kind
authorized
of mess
me
you have?
to say that anybody that has Social Security recipients won't need to file a new tax return, and we'll have that. If we don't have
Raver
your
mask.
direct deposit
Ravers
information,
were-
we'll be putting up a web
Ravers
portal
were
so
ahead
that
of the
you can
curve
put
on
that
this.
up. It is a very large priority. The president has made clear we want to get this money quickly into your hands.
Let's see what kind of masks
I'm also
there are.
pleased to report that we continue to work closely with the Federal Reserve. We're in the process of designing a new facility that we call the Main Street Lending Facility. We're also looking at facilities for state governments as well. And I'm also pleased to report the Employee Retention Credit. It's up and running. The first $10,000 of wages, you get a 50% credit. That's $5,000 per person. And for everyone who's kept someone, you can immediately get that money. You can deduct it from what you owe the IRS immediately. If you don't owe us money, you'll get a refundable tax credit. So that is up and running. I'm also pleased to report we have the program up and running. We're taking applications
What's the
from
most
the airlines,
expensive
from the
mask
cargo
you can buy?
companies, and from national security companies. So thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Steve. Ford, Jovita, or Steve, any questions, please?
Mr. Secretary, Chase Bank sent a letter to its business clients today saying that they don't have the necessary guidance from the SBA, from the Treasury Department, to be able to accept loan applications starting tomorrow. The need is clearly enormous, but at least one
my
major
internet's
bank
going
says
down.
they're
I don't
not
know
fully
what's up.
empowered yet to be able to help their
Well,
customers.
as I spoke to all the CEOs yesterday, I had a conference call with them. We got very good input from them on what they needed. As I said, people were working till 4 o'clock. I believe we just put up the Federal Register with the new guidelines for lenders. I've been assured that the banks will be in the process starting tomorrow.
Did you
Now,
guys
again,
see the,
It's going to take a little bit of time, but we committed that this will be available tomorrow, and I encourage all companies, go to
Did you guys see the,
SBA.gov, go to treasury.gov. You can see the
New
information
Balance
you need immediately.
masks they made?
Follow up with the small business owners, a number of them saying that they were on that conference call and that there's a tremendous power struggle going on between the Treasury and SBA, and that it's over process and forms is what they tell me, and that lenders are actually opting out because they can't make enough money to even service the loans. So how are you gonna make sure these small business owners get the capital they need to survive right now?
Well, first of all, I can assure you, Jovita's here. Jovita used to work for me as the treasurer. There's no power struggle. Jovita and our team, as I said, worked together till 4 o'clock in the morning, started
They're pretty
working
cool.
at 7 o'clock again. We've made the form simpler, and I can assure you, at 5 points, I've told these bankers they should take all their traders and put them in the branches. So
This is
there'll
the
never
New
be
Balance
another
mask.
opportunity to earn 5 points on a 90-day government, fully
wonder what they
government
look like.
guaranteed loan.
And those checks right into direct deposit, IRS now saying it could take 4 to 5 months, you're saying 2 weeks.
Let
Can
me
you give us-
be clear.
give
I
us
don't
a
know where you,
solid-
let me be clear. I don't know where you're hearing these things. I told you this would be 3 weeks. I'm now
Cool,
committing
right?
to 2 weeks.
I'd wear
We're
that.
delivering on our commitments. The IRS, which I oversee, within 2 weeks, The first money won't be in people's account.
Just to follow up on that, the question is not about the first checks for folks who have direct deposit. Sounds like those will go out pretty quickly. The question is then for folks who don't have direct deposit, and there was a staff memo that was released by the House Ways and Means Committee today saying that that process could take up to 5 weeks. That takes you to mid-August. Is that how long it's going to take?
That is not going to take
5 months, I'm sorry.
Again, let me just say, when Obama sent out these checks, it took months and months and months. I am assuring the American public they need the money now. What we're going to do is, again, if we have your information,
Looks
you'll
kinda
get
goofy.
it within 2
Straps are
weeks.
reversed.
Social Security, you'll get it very quickly after that. If we don't have your information, you'll have a simple web portal, you'll upload it. If we don't have that, we'll send you checks in the mail.
How many checks can you process a week, though? How many checks can you?
Again, we can process a lot of checks, but we don't
kinda
want to
cool.
send checks. In this
I'd wear
environment,
this.
we don't want
That
people to
looks
get
good.
checks. We want to put money
Months
directly
and
into
months
their
and months
account.
under Obama.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. This is for, I guess, both you and the administrator.
Where do
There have been
like-
some anecdotal reports
where do,
that
like,
business
Asian
people trying to get
hypebeasts
access
buy
to the online site to submit the applications. The
they're
website's been
blaming- they're
crashing.
trying to shift
I've heard of
away from Obama
webinars
again.
going offline because there's just too many people on them. So how are you guys going to be ready, tomorrow to get these loans out?
We've brought in a lot of external
Where do
resources
Asian
at
hype
SBA
beasts?
and
Let's
us
see.
to make sure there's additional
Rakuten?
capacity. As I said,
Does
we heard a
Rakuten
lot of
save
good
sale
feedback
masks?
yesterday to simplify this process. It's going to be up and running. Now, let me just be clear. That doesn't
Well,
mean
he's not
everybody is
doing
going to
anything.
get their loan tomorrow, but the system will be up and running. We encourage
Go
people over the
Moises.
next week. Sign up. You can go on right now. You can go on the web, see what information you need. Very simple process.
Mr. Secretary, on a separate subject, have you been in touch with Leader McConnell and Speaker Pelosi about their differences right now about another stimulus package?
Thanks for the flower.
I've spoken to
Imran
the leader, I've
potato
spoken to
face
the
mask?
speaker. I've spoken to the president constantly. When the president's ready and thinks we should do the next stage, we're ready. The president's talked about the issue of infrastructure since the campaign. I think that's a big priority for him. And again, if we run out of money on the small business program, we'll be back right away to Congress to get this increased.
Does the unemployment numbers today increase the urgency of doing it?
Hey, biker chick. Cool.
Well, let me just
this
say,
is the most.
We're going through something that we've never done before.
Moises, why did you,
shut down big parts of the economy because
Why
of
did you
health
do that?
reasons. Our economy was in great shape. Our companies were in great shape. There are 3 ways that Americans are going to be protected. For small business, they'll get paid by the
College
business
station
through
house
this program.
150.
The direct deposit. There's also enhanced unemployment. So we realize, unfortunately, there are
What's
a lot of
Imran?
companies
What's
that,
Imran
because
potato?
they aren't in business over a short period of time. Again, we're working with the states on enhanced unemployment. And as soon as the medical professionals and the president give the all clear, we're going to
Imran
have a
potato
ton of liquidity. We have about $6 trillion. This has never been done between us and the Fed to put into the economy to
New York
support
designer.
American workers and American business.
Secretary, in addition to the jobless numbers we saw today, Phase 3 was signed before the social distancing guidelines were extended for another month. So what
Sam?
additional relief are you going to give to Americans as they stay out of work for all these extra weeks?
Yeah,
And
that's
what
true.
are we waiting
We
for?
need more money.
Well, we in designing this program, we thought that we had liquidity
Chen Gang.
for about 10
Gentlemen
weeks.
in the
and
house,
that's what
greetings.
we designed. And again, I think the president's been very clear. If we need to go back to Congress
I
to
have a dope
support the
concept. If you want to
American
do a duo
economy and
IRL
American
stream, just
workers,
hit me.
we
It
will
could be
doing it.
entertaining for viewers.
Mr.
We got a
Secretary.
social distance though. Are you in LA?
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has formed a select
We could do it from 6 feet
committee
away,
to
I guess.
oversee the distribution of recovery funds, and she says she wants to make sure that those funds are wisely and efficiently spent. Do you think that's
Moises, you got any papers?
something that's necessary?
I don't.
this.
I mean,
I like this guy's style.
both parties
Cool.
wanted us to have oversight, wanted us to have transparency. We have full transparency.
goofy.
We have a oversight committee that the speaker gets to pick someone, the leader gets to pick someone. I believe there's 5 people on it. And again, that committee will review the money that we're spending. And again, we support full transparency. Taxpayers should understand how we're going to support this economy and jobs.
Mr. Secretary, Senator Murkowski has asked you to consider providing loans to energy companies under the CARES Act, the Phase 3 bill.
I'm not.
What are your thoughts on that? Would you consider
Definitely not.
providing those loans to energy companies?
So thank you, and let me clarify. I have very limited ability to do direct loans out of the Treasury. I can do them for passenger airlines, cargo airlines, contractors, and national security companies. Outside of that, we work with the Federal Reserve to create broad-based.
That sounds like my
facilities,
nightmare.
which we will do. So our expectation is the energy companies, like all our other companies, will be able to participate in broad-based facilities, whether it's the corporate facility or whether it's the Main Street facility, but not direct lending out of the Treasury.
The cat's gone. Sorry. Gave him back to
Those folks who don't
his
have bank
owner.
accounts, who don't have direct deposit
Lauren was just
information
taking
on
care of
file
it
with the
for a
IRS,
bit.
how long would they have to wait for their check?
I thought Lauren was going to come over
People who
and
don't
I
have
would make her
direct
grilled cheese,
deposit,
but she's not now.
Again, we'll have
So
an easy way they put it up. We
Take
get
that out
on a
of the-
rolling basis. I
Yeah,
think,
the
you
cat's
within
gone.
a couple of days when they give it to us, we'll send the money out. We do realize there are people who are underbanked. And again, we're working with all the digital companies, prepaid debit cards. We're working with all of them to make sure we have a process that every American gets their money quickly.
What
This money
is
does
grilled
people no
cheese?
good if it shows up in 4 months, and we will deliver on that promise.
Are you
It's a matter of
serious?
Weeks then, perhaps, not months.
Quickly is a matter of weeks and not months. That's correct.
Would you consider
In
a
the back.
moratorium on
Go ahead.
Mr. Secretary, one area where you can make direct loans is to the airlines. How much do you expect that the Treasury
I guess I could
Department
still
and the
make one
federal
for me.
government will be involved in overseeing the operations of airlines as it pertains to which routes get cut
never
back,
had grilled
how much
cheese?
they operate, what they do about their employees, and the
it's
like?
So there are very strict requirements that's built into the bill. Again,
it's
this was a
basically the
bipartisan
best thing
requirement.
ever.
One, anything
And
we
you,
do with the
take,
airlines, they have to maintain
2 pieces of
substantially
bread.
all of their employees. So again,
You
any money
cut
that we
up
provide them will go
slices
to
of
pay their
cheese,
employees.
put it
We're
in
gonna be
the bread,
working with the Secretary
bread,
of Transportation. There are requirements
sandwich,
to maintain
put
certain
butter
routes.
or mayonnaise
So
on the
again, we have a
outside,
very
and then
clear
you just
process.
grill it
We've hired
on
3
a
outside
pan,
advisors will
and
be
you melt the
financial
cheese, toast the
advisors,
bread.
and 3 law firms will be releasing that information shortly. And I want to thank them. They're all working for basically very,
Amazing.
very
You should
little
try
money.
it.
They couldn't work.
But
for
they don't
free,
have it
so
in
they
other
could
countries?
basically
They
work
must. They
for
must
what
call
they
it
would
something
sign
else,
up
like
to work for
cheesy bread or
charitable
something, right?
organizations. So again, no big
You've never
fees
had
to
a
bankers. We got a
grilled
great team
cheese
of 3
sandwich?
lawyers and 3 financial advisors that will assist us.
Mr. Secretary, just to follow up on that, will you give us a
Making me
list of
hungry.
the names of those people who are advising you when you release the information?
Of course we will. We'll give you the names as well as the contracts.
Do you
So
have any
again,
names right now other than BlackRock?
so again, I'm happy to announce it. We have the
Cheese-
PJT Partners.
cheese
Is
toasty.
going to do
Oh
the
my
passenger
God.
airlines. Moelis and Company is going to do the cargo and
toasty.
contractors, and Perella
Where are you?
Weinberg will handle the national security.
Where are you
And there'll
from?
be 3 law firms, which we'll announce shortly, that will
UK?
be working in each one of those sectors.
Zealand.
And again, let me just be clear. We need to get this done quickly. The airlines need money. We're going to work very closely with the Department of Transportation and get this done quickly. We've actually already received contracts from a lot of the people. Again, there's guidance up on the web. Full transparency, we've asked for
They
applications.
call them cheese toasties.
On the
I'm
airline
hungry
issue
now.
again, Speaker Pelosi and others have said that the government taking stakes in those airlines should not be a condition for the federal government to provide payroll support specifically. What's your response to that?
I spoke to the speaker last night about that. This was something that was highly negotiated
the same queen?
between the Republicans and the Democrats. The
What's that
president
mean?
was personally involved in this. He was on the phone with us many times. Mitch McConnell, Mark Meadows, senators on both sides. There is a specific line in the bill that says that the secretary, meaning me, will determine proper compensation. So this is not a bailout for the airlines. And I will be working, once we get our advice from our financial advisors, we get the applications from the airlines, I'll be working very closely with the president, and we'll make sure that we strike the right balance, not a bailout, taxpayers get compensated, but these airlines, these are national security issues, we want to keep
Taxpayers
our
get
airlines
compensated.
intact.
Mr. Secretary, just
They're gonna
more
pay it
broadly
back. That's
for-
what they said about the other bailout,
Administrator,
too.
if Not for you as well.
But a lot of
Some
people
small
made a lot of
businesses,
money that they
restaurant
did not pay
owners-
back.
Owners, for example, are finding that laying off their employees so that they can start collecting unemployment is better both for them as business owners and for their workers. What incentives do they have right now to keep their employees on the payroll?
What countries
if
did
no
I
one's
visit with
coming into
ICE?
their restaurants?
Well, the incentive that you
Netherlands,
have, and we want American business to be
Luxembourg,
kept intact. The incentive is these are
Belgium,
loans that turn into grants. So if you're a
Paris.
business owner and you're a restaurant, you can hire your people back.
I think that's
you
where
get
we
money
went.
for their medical. You keep them on the
France.
medical plan. You get money for your rent. You get money for your
I
electricity.
didn't see
You're
it.
motivated. We want you to have a business that you can reopen quickly when it's appropriate. So this doesn't cost the business owners anything. You know, when people talk about, I can't imagine any American worker who had a job, is offered to keep their job, isn't going to want to have it. And let me just be clear, we've also talked about this unemployment issue. You can only get unemployment if you don't have a job.
Ice Gold
So
Japan, what's
unemployment
up?
is intended for those people
Nobody's
that
responded.
are some of the mid-size or
My
larger
tweet.
businesses, and we're very sympathetic to this, that these companies can't
I wanted
afford.
to-
And for those people, the
I
enhanced
edit one of
unemployment
somebody's
will
paper.
be a significant benefit. But we want to make sure 50%
You
of
guys
the
got jacked
American
in France.
workforce
Yes,
is
they
small
stole my
businesses
fucking
under
glasses,
500
which I
people.
still don't
The president,
have.
Vice president,
I still don't have
the
glasses 'cause
administrator,
they're
and I
like
want to make
whatever.
sure this part of the
Stole
economy is
I'm
ready
doing okay, man.
and
Doing okay.
intact when we're ready to reopen.
Question for the administrator, if I may. Is there a certain category of small businesses that you're most concerned about? Restaurants, hair salons, things like
Feeling
that?
a little
That's a great
cooped up,
question.
you know?
We're concerned about
Playing video
the
games though
small
helps a lot.
business. There's 30
Been
million
playing a
small
lot
businesses that
of
we're
Escape from
really focused on,
Tarkov.
and
Oh,
we're
that
working
game's so good.
feverishly
I'm
to make
addicted.
sure
I'm
that we
addicted.
can provide the
Gonna play a
available
little
funds to them as
later.
quickly as possible. So it's 30 million small businesses, and the other businesses are being dealt with the PPP, with the Paycheck Protection. There was also the disaster, what we call it, the injury.
People around the world
or economic
recognize ICE.
injury
Yes, a
disaster
lot of people
loan.
do.
And then there was an advance
See how
associated with that particular.
Let's see how I'm
program
doing
as
on the
well.
Mixer
So, to answer your question,
leaderboard.
we're concerned about all businesses, and as the secretary indicated, we're looking at
This part is a little
employees
dull.
being
I don't know.
ready,
You guys wanna
not
listen to
lost
this?
in this process?
Okay if I just
We're wa-
talk?
We want businesses to stay intact because they represent half the GDP. So if we spend $1 trillion to support 10 trillion or 11 trillion, I think that's a significant investment, and that's what we're focused on.
Is there a certain
Let me
segment that you
I
think is
just wanna make
particularly
one-
vulnerable?
Hang on, I just want to make one comment for explanation because I want to make sure everybody out there understands this. If you're an independent contractor, if you're a sole proprietor, you're eligible for this as well. Now, that program won't be up and running until next week, but again, this is a very broad definition of small business. So
Check it
if
out.
you're an independent plumber, if you're an independent contractor, you're covered under
6.
this program.
6.
It's slightly more complicated. You have to come into your bank and give them more information, but starting
why I
next
love
week,
Mixer.
that part of the
Top
program
10
will
on
be up and
Mixer,
running.
baby. I should put
Also,
that in my
charities. Charities as well, very important.
I should
The
put that
Vice
in my
President,
bio.
President, make
Top
sure that
10
we
on
cover
Mixer.
Small charities in this.
Include churches and religious nonprofits?
It does, although there are some technical issues, but yes, it does include faith organizations.
Yeah, but it's still top 10 in Mixer.
This
It's
is
not
under
inaccurate.
the PPP, yes, the new SBA program, they are covered.
Should I get a green screen?
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Okay, so that begins right away, and they start handing out checks, and a lot of people are gonna have their businesses built back up quickly, I hope.
Okay, maybe I
And
won't.
we'll see.
I know, these guys
Complicated,
should
big,
definitely.
Small business is actually big business, so I thank them both. And,
They
please,
definitely should be
we have
social
some
distance.
great gentlemen. Let me see, great gentlemen, that's correct. Thank you very much. Today, my administration is also issuing new guidelines to protect elderly Americans who remain the most vulnerable. By now, nursing homes should have suspended
10.
the entry of all medically unnecessary personnel. Today, we're further recommending that all nursing home facilities assign the same staff to care for the same group of residents consistently to minimize any potential spread. And we're also urging facilities to designate separate areas for healthy and sick residents. And this is a
wrong
practice
with
that we
elderly?
probably will be recommending into the future, long after the enemy
don't
is
think I'm
gone.
ready
This
for a
particular
green
enemy
screen.
is gone. We're also making
No,
every effort
I don't
to
think I need a
provide
green screen.
relief to our great
I
veterans.
like it when you're playing games when they have
We
a green
take very good care of our veterans. At my direction, Secretary Wilkie will use any authority at his disposal to extend deadlines for benefits and to postpone debt collections. We're now conducting well over 100,000 coronavirus tests per day. It's over 100,000 tests a day, and these are accurate tests, and they're moving rapidly, which is more than any other country in the world, both in terms of the raw number and also on a per capita basis, the most. The FDA has also authorized the first coronavirus antibody test developed by Cellex, a key step that will help identify people who have recovered and to understand their immune response and their immune system. Moments ago, I directed Secretary Azar and Acting Secretary Wolf to use any and all available authority under the Defense Production Act to ensure that domestic manufacturers have the supplies they need to produce ventilators for patients with severe cases of COVID-19. You know what that is, right? It's a very famous term.
What the?
COVID, COVID. This action will help General Electric, Hill-Rom, Medtronic, ResMed, Royal Philips, and Vyaire Medical overcome obstacles in the supply chain that threaten the rapid production of ventilators. We have over 100,000 being built right now or soon to be started.
Now,
We
1-800
anticipate issuing more
COVID-19
orders under the Defense Production Act in the very near future, in addition to the one that I've just signed against 3M for face masks. We just signed a element of the act against 3M, and hopefully they'll be able to do what they are supposed to do. Just spoke to Mary Barra of General Motors, and she said they're very soon going to be ready to start production of the ventilators. They have a lot of ventilators that they've committed to build, and they'll be starting very, very quickly. FEMA continues to deliver resources to areas most affected by the virus, including New York. On top of the 3,000 beds we're already providing to the Javits Center, the Department of Defense is adding another 48 ICU beds. Governor Cuomo has asked that this facility go, and it's a big, beautiful facility, be converted to a COVID hospital. And we hadn't done that yet. We hadn't thought in terms of doing that, but their real demand is for that. And we had meetings on it with the task force. We had meetings with the military. And I've decided to say, yes, I'm going to do that, that I will be signing and agreeing to a yes answer so that we will be doing that. And also, we will be staffing it. So the federal government is doing a lot of things that wasn't anticipated that it do. This is a 2,500 and/or 2,900 can easily be set up hospital built in Javits Center, and so we're going to be converting that to a COVID-19 hospital.
He started calling it
And it's going to
COVID-19
be
now. That's
staffed
interesting. Why do you think
by
he's
the
doing
military and by the federal government.
It went from Chinese
And
virus,
based on the fact that I
coronavirus,
agreed to that, we had two
COVID-19.
other facilities that were likewise asking for it, and that would be in Louisiana.
It's crazy. We have the most
and
cases.
also in Dallas, and we'll be doing those. We spoke to the governor of
Way
Louisiana.
more. We have way
spoke
more
to the
than
governor of Texas.
China
And
now,
we
right?
told them that we will be staffing those hospitals again
I mean, who knows how
above
active
and
they are,
beyond, but that's okay.
We have way more
to do that.
deaths.
In addition, the USNS Comfort is docked in New York to accept patients. That is a non-COVID. To date, FEMA has delivered more than 4 million N95 masks.
You think he cares about SJWs?
And think of that, 4 million.
Yes.
Don't forget, we're a secondary source. The states are doing it, and we're backing them up, but we've gotten 4 million
136,000.
N95 respirators, 1.8 million surgical masks, 460,000 face shields, 1.4 million gloves, and 4,400 ventilators just to the city and to the state of New York. And some of them now are being sent. I spoke with both Governor Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio a little while ago, and some of them are being sent to the city.
Yeah, we're more than double
All
Italy.
of America stands with the people of New York in this time of need. It's definitely a hot spot, but we have other hot
I like
spots
this
also.
chat. I
And
like
we're
this,
taking care of them very, very strongly,
This
very
map.
powerfully. We have the finest people in the world in those locations. And I think the federal government has not only acted early, but acted quickly, professionally. There's no people like this. Doctors, nurses, first responders, and other healthcare providers
how well we're
who
doing
want to help
relative
New
to
York
everyone
at this
else.
critical time should visit
we're dipping a little
website
bit, I guess. Seems like we're slowing a little bit. Oh, no, that's
nyc.gov/help
UK.
now. nyc.gov/help now. They need help now. They need people to help them. We have great facilities, and we've built some brand-new facilities, big ones, but we need help.
Hey, we're still
We need
shooting
help
up there.
for professional people. So
We're not at the
if you're in
peak.
an area that isn't so affected, and you're a doctor, a nurse, a healthcare worker, please get to that website.
I would
and
do that.
We would really appreciate your
I would
help.
go over there
New York
to New
City
York right
needs
now
it.
if I was a nurse
Louisiana, by the way,
or a
needs it.
doctor.
Michigan needs it. Whatever you can do, those are very strong hotspots. They need help. In recent weeks, as the virus has
Denmark
spread
not on
and
there? It's
economic
probably one of
hardship has
these down
followed,
here.
we have seen Americans unite with incredible
How's Denmark doing? Are you
selflessness
from Denmark?
and
Oh, here's
compassion.
Denmark.
I want to remind everyone here in our nation's capital, especially in Congress, that this is not the time for politics, endless partisan investigations. Here we go again. Have already done extraordinary damage to our country in recent years. You see what happens. It's witch hunt after witch hunt after witch hunt. And in the end, the people doing the witch hunt have been losing, and they've been losing by a lot.
Denmark seems like they got it under
And
control.
it's not any time for witch hunts. It's time to get this enemy defeated. Conducting these partisan investigations in the middle of a pandemic is a really big waste of vital resources, time, attention, and we want to fight for American lives, not waste time and build up my poll numbers, because that's all they're doing. Everyone knows it's ridiculous. So we want to focus on the people of this country, even the people of the world. We're going to be able to help them, because right now, as an example, we're building so many ventilators. Very, very hard to build, but we're building thousands of them. And a lot of them will be coming at a time when we won't need them as badly, because it takes time, very complex, very expensive, and we'll be able to help outside of our country. We think we'll be able to help. That's something that you cannot easily produce. As citizens, we're linked together by the shared bonds of national love, loyalty, and affection. There's no earthly force more powerful than the patriotic pride that stirs in our hearts, and that is so true. It's incredible the job that everybody's been doing, everybody. They don't sleep, they don't go to bed, sometimes they get nothing. Said to somebody recently on the task force,
We're going to hit 1,000 deaths.
how
per
many
day
hours
soon.
sleep have you gotten over the last couple of days? The answer was none.
We're going
None.
above 1,000 a day.
In one Massachusetts neighborhood, citizens come out of their homes each night at 8 o'clock from their porches and they sing God Bless America. Others have joined in, spreading from house to house, down one street up to the next, until their little town with a spirit of patriotism and reminding all Americans that we're all in this together. We'll fight together and we will win together. We're going to win this. Now what I'd like to do is I'm going to step out. We have a meeting on this subject, and I'm going to step out just for a few moments. I'll be right back. We'll answer some questions. But you have some very hardworking people who have done an incredible job, led by Vice President Mike Pence, head of the task force. And then Jared Kushner is going to say a few words.
Oh, my
Admiral
God. I hate Jared
Polovchik,
Kushner. What
Peter
is he
Navarro,
doing?
Dr. Burks, and myself. I'll be right back.
He's my least favorite
So I'll see you in a little
member
while.
of the Trump
I did
administration
take
by far.
a test. It just came out. This is from the White House physician. You may have it. Just came out. I just took it this morning. And I took it. It took me literally a minute to take it. And it took me, I guess it was 14 or 15 minutes. I went to work. I didn't wait for it, but he said it took 14 minutes or something to come up with a conclusion. And it said the president tested negative for COVID-19. So that's the second one. I think I took it really out of curiosity to see how quickly it worked and fast it worked, and it's a lot easier. I've done them both. And the second one is much more pleasant, Jeff. I can tell you that. Much more pleasant. So I'll be back in a little while. And Mike, please take over. Thank you. Thank you all very much. I'll be right back.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Boo.
The White House Coronavirus Task
is he
Force
doing?
met today, but
What's Jared
earlier
Kushner
in the
doing?
day, the President convened all the key elements of our supply chain team in the Oval Office for an update on the progress that we have been making.
After he solved
literally around the clock to
Israeli
make sure
crisis,
that our
Israeli
healthcare
problem,
workers,
Israel
the people
problem.
on the front lines, have the personal protective equipment and also the ventilators to be able to meet this moment. And today you're going to hear from the people that are literally working each and every day to make that happen. Dr. Deborah Birx is also with us. She'll reflect in a few moments on the progress that we're making analyzing the data. Each and every day we're looking county by county, state by state, consulting with governors and local health officials. At the present moment, more than 1.3 million tests have been performed, and as you all are aware, some 236,000 Americans have tested positive for the coronavirus, with now the losses over 5,000 Americans, and our hearts are with their families. Beyond that, we have been focusing not just on ensuring the testing is occurring, but that the supplies are flowing. As the President just announced, he made a decision today to deploy thousands of N95 masks directly to New York City's public hospitals, and our team will speak about that in just a moment. And also, the President took the unprecedented step to direct the Department of Defense to use military healthcare personnel
really saying anything.
to operate all COVID facilities at the Javits Center in New York.
It's true.
At the Convention Center in New Orleans, and at the Convention Center in Dallas.
It's because they let the politicians run these
states today that their requests, we were making those military medical personnel available to
the
operate
medical
in
people
all
and the
COVID
scientists are on,
facility.
they say some interesting
But we
stuff,
would emphasize to people in that community who believe you've been impacted
all spin.
or have contracted the coronavirus, contact your local healthcare
seems like
provider.
it's real.
We anticipate in the New York area that your local
potential
healthcare
civilian
provider
use.
will
What?
make the decision whether you are transferred
Human
to the
remains
Javits Center.
pouches, they're
And in all
called?
cases,
Ew.
simply look to the guidance of your local governors about how best to receive the care that every American is entitled to have. Beyond that, let me say that we've been working through FEMA's acquisition process, not only to deploy, but to gather up personal protective equipment. And in just a few moments, you will hear from Admiral John Polovchik about the extraordinary progress that we have made in deploying not just the strategic national stockpile, but also in identifying on the commercial marketplace around America and around the world literally millions of N95 masks, surgical gowns, gloves,
domestic violence
protective
increasing.
equipment. And at this point, we've distributed some 7,600 ventilators. And you'll hear today specifically about the states that have received those
is it making
ventilators.
it less depressed? Why would it
This
make
team
people
has
less
truly acted in an inspiring
You
way.
don't feel lonely or anything?
And literally is working with dozens and dozens of people at the FEMA Stabilization Task Force to make sure that we are leaving no stone unturned to find the supplies we need. Let me also say today you're going to hear from Jared Kushner, senior advisor to the President of the United States, but someone that the White House Coronavirus Task Force directed to work with FEMA on supply chain issues. And in recent weeks, he's been leading a working group in conjunction with FEMA that literally has identified millions of medical supplies around the nation and around the world, and we're grateful for his efforts and his leadership. Finally, you'll hear from Peter Navarro, who will explain the action the President took today using the Defense Production Act. But as you hear details today about medical supplies that have been distributed, those that have been purchased, those that we're making available, ventilators distributed to hospitals, and those that are available, let me just remind every American that you can make a difference.
Everyone's only
in
talking about
ensuring
economy
that every patient
when it comes to depression.
has the treatment that they deserve.
We're all gamers
Every
of hiding.
healthcare provider, every doctor and nurse's assistant has
I use the internet a lot
protective
too,
gear
but
to provide the
I need
care
it.
that
I
you
need to
would want
balance
your
it out a
family
little bit.
to have
You know?
by putting into practice the President's 30 days to slow the spread. I mean, we want you to take to heart the President's coronavirus guidelines for America. First, to protect your own health, to protect the health of your family, to protect the health of your community. We know so many people are asymptomatic. And
Wait till
people
the
that
reporters get to ask
literally
questions
don't
for
know they have the
Kushner, yeah.
coronavirus, but have the
Probably
ability
the
to
press trying to make
infect
a
others.
story.
We want you to put these guidelines into practice: social distancing, using a drive-through at a restaurant, washing your hands on a regular basis. But as we focus today on supplies, make no mistake about it, every
You feel
American can make
worse
sure
lately, Beep? I'm
that
sorry.
our healthcare workers and,
Sorry to
more
hear that.
importantly, Americans that are struggling with
Are
coronavirus
you doing anything?
have the equipment
help?
to support their treatment by putting these principles into practice, because the fewer Americans that contract the coronavirus,
Hang in
the
there,
fewer
man.
Americans will have to enter our healthcare system. And that'll continue to preserve the capacity in our healthcare economy. So we thank the millions of Americans who've responded in the first 2 days of 30 days to slow the spread. And I'm just absolutely confident that in the days ahead, every American's going to do their part for your health, your family's health, the health of your community, and to ensure the strength and vitality of the greatest healthcare system in the world. With that, let me introduce Jared Kushner to speak about the work that he's been doing.
Well,
working
does
with
streaming, does watching
ensuring a
streams
strong
help with
supply
that?
chain to meet this moment.
I think
Jared?
streaming has helped with my loneliness, like talking to you guys, talking to people. Oh,
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, and thank you for your great leadership on the task force. And thank you to Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci as well. It's been an honor working with you these past few weeks. When the Vice President first asked me to help on the task force with different tasks, I asked the President what he expected from the task force and how I can best serve him and the task force. What the President asked is that all of the recommendations that we make be based on data. He wanted us to be very rigorous to make sure that we were studying the data, collecting data. A lot of things in this country were happening very quickly, and we wanted to make sure that we were trying to keep updating our models and making sure that we were making informed decisions and informed recommendations to him based on the data that we were able to collect and put together. The President wanted to make sure that we had the best people doing the best jobs and making sure that we had the right people focused on all the things that needed to happen to make sure that we can deliver in these unusual times for the American people. The President also instructed me to make sure that I break down every barrier needed to make sure that the teams can succeed. This is an effort where the government is doing things that the government doesn't normally do. We're stretching, we're working very quickly.
Shock is what
and,
will cause
the
most.
President wants
Yeah,
to
I'm
make sure
sorry.
the
This
White
is
House
not a very
fully
good
behind
mental
the different
health.
people running the different lines
This
of
isn't like
effort
a mental
to
health
make sure that we
boosting
get everything
stream.
done in a speed that the President demands. The President also wanted us to make sure we think outside the box, make sure we're finding all the best thinkers in the country, making sure we're getting all the best ideas, and that we're doing everything
Beep, do you
possible to make
you
sure
have
that
friends
we
or
keep
something
Americans
who
safe
are
and make sure we bring,
struggling with
a
that?
quick end to this in the best way possible and balance all the different aspects that need to be thought of while we do this. This truly is a historic challenge. We have not seen something like this in a very, very long time, but I am very confident that by bringing innovative solutions to these hard problems, we will make progress.
Son-in-law.
Today, we were briefing
First
the President
son-in-law.
earlier. He asked me to come out and talk a little bit about what we've been doing on the supply chain task force, which Admiral Polovchek has been leading.
He's married to
and
Ivanka
and
Trump.
what he's been
That's
very
how he
impressed
got the
by is the
job.
way that we've been resourceful to find product all over the world, all over the country, and we are finding ways to solve the different problems. The President's been very, very hands-on in this. He's really instructed us to leave no stone unturned.
He's just the
just
most.
this morning, very early this morning, I got a call from the President.
He should know
He
better,
told
you
me
know.
he was
I
hearing
guess
from
maybe
friends
I just
in
think
New
he
York
should
that
know
the
better
New
because
York
he's like young,
public
he's like
hospital
educated,
system,
and he's
was
just
right
like
low
involved
on
in
critical
this
supply. He instructed
horrible
me this
White
morning.
House,
I
and
called
he's
Dr. Katz, who runs the
incompetent.
system,
Like
asked
he
him
led
what
the
supplies was the
Israel
most, supply he
Palestine
was nervous
task
about. He
force
told me
just
it was
came
the
up with this like
N95
totally
masks.
bullshit
I asked what his
plan.
daily burn was, and I basically got that number. Called up Admiral Polovchek, made sure we had the inventory. We went to the President today, and earlier today the President called Mayor de Blasio to inform him that we were going to send a month of supply to the New York public hospital system to make sure that the workers on the front line can rest assured that they have the N95 masks that they need to get through the next
Like,
month.
who watching
We'll be
this
doing
feels
similar
good?
things with all the different public hospitals that are in the hotspot zones and making sure that we're constantly in communications with the local communities. One thing I will say, just based on data, is that we've been getting a lot of data from different governors and from different mayors and from different cities. One thing I've seen FEMA do very, very well over the last week or so is now we're getting real-time data from a lot of cities, people who have requests for different products and supplies. A lot of them are doing it based on projections, which are not the realistic projections. The projections change every day as we see the cases, as we see the impacts of the Stop the Spread effort that this task force recommended and the president has been pushing forward.
I mean, nepotism
I do think that we'll see that hopefully there'll be impact of that. And the task force has been working very hard through the FEMA group with Admiral Polovchek to make sure that we're getting the supplies to people before they run out and making sure that we're doing it in a proper way. I'd like to just introduce Admiral Polovchek, who, before coming to this, I guess still is. He's the Vice Director for Logistics for the Joint Staff. I got a call from one of the senators saying, well, why don't you put a great military person in charge of the logistics and the supply chain and the Defense Production Act? And I said, well, the president already did that. This is the best man that we have in the country for supplies and logistics. He joined the task force 13 days ago over at FEMA, and he's built a team really at the direction of the vice president that includes people from FEMA, OMB, the FDA, HHS, the White House, and from everywhere else. And what they've done over the last 13 days has been really extraordinary. We've done things that the government has never done before, quicker than they've ever done it before. And what we're seeing now is we found a lot of supplies in the country. We've been distributing them where we anticipate there will be needs, and also trying to make sure that we're hitting places where there are needs. So I can tell you the people in the task force, they're working day and night. You've got a lot of people in the government. We recognize the challenge that America faces right now.
Give me another
we know what a lot of people on the front lines are facing, the fear that they have, that they won't have the supplies they need, and our goal is to work as hard as we can.
He's so robotic. He's so.
Let them down.
He's like he's like a less personable Mark Zuckerberg. If
who's doing an amazing job.
Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Agenda-free Adrian.
Mr. Vice President.
Dude, I could give that agenda-free guy a run for his money.
A couple items, five things. First thing I'm going to talk about is resources pushed out from the federal government. And then I'm going to talk about this air bridge, which you may have heard about. I'm going to talk about data. As you said, we're
data.
Mr. Kushner is absolutely right. We're trying to be data-driven, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about how we're trying to expand the industrial base here to meet this challenge. So the first thing, you've quickly stated numbers here. So these, I'm about to go through several different slides to give you just scale and magnitude of federal resources that have been applied at the problem. So 27.1 million surgical masks pushed out to state governments.
I don't watch Joe.
For N95 masks, 19.5 million N95 masks. And so if I was in a local hospital that was running short, I would look upward because the federal government has pushed out resources. So for protective gloves, 22.4 million pairs of protective gloves. For face shields, 5.2 million face shields. For ventilators, we have pushed to the states more than 7,600 ventilators, and I think as I was coming over here, that number's changed slightly. I think it's now 7,640. Given to these states, to the predominantly these states. So we wanted you to have some numbers. Now, as we've indicated,
how do you pronounce router?
We have ventilators in the national stockpile. We pushed ventilators out. We're holding ventilators to put to the point of need, but we're also buying ventilators. Asking the industrial base, who produces approximately, prior to COVID, approximately 30,000 ventilators a year. We are going over the next several months, by the end of June, work to acquire 100,000. And so one of the tools that we're going to anticipate needing, we've already executed, is all of those vendors that we're buying them from potentially will need help in their supply chains with their suppliers. We might rate orders. We might help them get ahead of others in that endeavor. So I think Mr. Navarro is going to talk about
a world war for masks is declared.
So let me talk about the air bridge.
Our sources.
So normally takes approximately 37 days to get from overseas, get product, load it, get it to the United States, and distribute it. That's about 37 days. So to
Their
prime the
sources
pump,
testify.
so
Oh,
to speak,
yeah.
we have lined on an air bridge to get product here faster, working with our major suppliers as they work to fill orders to get more to healthcare workers now. We are working to align transportation to product. And one of the things we're also doing is the team that works for me are scouring the globe and finding pockets of personal protective equipment that might not otherwise be in the U.S. hospital supply chain. That is also going on these flights. 6 completed and a number scheduled. 28 flights scheduled here in the near future. We are working towards, some days we'll have 1 flight, some days there might be 2 flights, multiple flights over the next coming days. These 28 are, as far as I can see, out to
compensation from China. I don't think it's going to happen.
Then again, matching product, 2 flights to create volume in the supply chain here
demand compensation
faster than the 37 days.
There's no way they could have done.
I'm just going to leave
really.
that up as I talk about a few other items. So let's talk about New York City and the public health hospitals. I believe they're called New York City Health and Hospitals. President directed, as I speak, there are pallets being formed, truck being loaded. I gave an address in New York City here an hour or 2 ago, and one of our distributors is making that happen, and that delivery will happen tomorrow.
Pretty dull, huh? Pretty boring, dude.
On the data front, this is almost unprecedented. This is a commercial supply chain with 6 to 7 major distributors of health equipment. We brought them all in, and we said we need to make informed decisions, and we are going to help make informed allocation decisions. So within a matter of days, feeding from their business systems, their enterprise resource-like systems,
Make me up when something.
I brought on board
happens.
a tool, a supply chain tower, that the DoD was using to manage a supply chain for a very complex weapon system. Their data goes into a data lake. We have a tool to be able to use their data and see it. I can tell what product is coming in, what their orders are, what they're filling, what they're not filling, and see the volume in the supply chain. And understand what they're doing down to the county level. We're working to get it potentially down to the hospital level. So this 200 and some odd N95 respirators, we took a look in there in the supply chain, and we said we have the volume to go do that.
200?
I called the distributor, and they're making that happen. We anticipate
seriously,
the hotspots.
Cool, you're able to get masks
around
to
the country.
Hospitals.
We anticipate these vendors
It's just
at
when
our
their biggest
direction
ally would do this.
helping
Is
them
that big
allocate
news in
product to the
Canada,
right
or is that
places
just
at the right
like
time.
random?
So if I talk
Big
finally
news.
about expanding the industrial base. So the vice president was at Walmart the other day, who told him, I want to get in this game. How do I do that? So I got the call. We provided them specifications. Walmart is going to use their suppliers to cut fabric.
Here it is.
Make gowns, sew product. But that's not always the case. We have lots of folks that want to help. Believe you will see in the coming days the use of the Defense Production Act in creative ways to help people that are not doing this today to do it. We have essentially leads. The number yesterday was 210. I believe it probably grew today, that we are working with to find how each one of those might need help to get in the game that's not in the game, to increase the throughput through the healthcare market. Again, the president gave me one task: get more to our healthcare workers now. And I took that to heart because I have, not that I don't need that from the president to that direction to move out, but I have family in New York.
Well, because we're
My sister's a nurse
dominating
practitioner in a Westchester hospital. And my niece is a nurse on a Long Island hospital. And I have other healthcare professionals in the family. So I have skin in this game. And the president asked me to get more of the healthcare workers. I'm going to get more of the healthcare workers. I'd like to hand over to Mr. Navarro. The 200,000 is going out as we
Very
speak.
specific about that.
It'll be delivered tomorrow.
Yeah, but let me be clear on that, if I can. What Jared announced, what the Admiral just unpacked, is that pallets are being loaded right now to send 200,000 N95 masks to New York City, to the public health hospitals.
To the public health warehouse in New York City.
All the healthcare workers.
Those were the ones they stole from. Those are the
On the tools and the data.
Those
you
are the
have
ones they
available
stole
to
from
you.
France.
Where is the logjam? Where has
We
it
just
been?
got it. Stole some
How do
200,000
you
from
identify that?
France.
Because as you say, all this, millions more PPE is going out the door. As you well know, the frontline medical
So
workers
I would
are.
answer you,
That's not getting it.
I would answer you this way. We put up a lot of numbers. I said that if you're in a hospital and you're not seeing PPE, I would look up to the state level first.
From governors
We
that are
aren't
saying they
seeing-
can't get the medical equipment that they need.
And the reason for that is because according to governors, and also by the fact that we
I
haven't
know,
seen
this
any
guy's
numbers
gonna
up
get
there about
pummeled
what
right
is
now.
going to the private sector.
Jared's
Can you
like,
tell us
"Yoink."
what percentage of the supplies on these large cargo planes are going to private companies versus FEMA
that was a joke.
versus the
So-
states?
so FEMA's,
80%?
This product that we're moving is primarily commercial product that would enter the commercial system.
Yeah, check out the
and
article
be
that
distributed through financial business transactions between hospitals and these
Ice
distributors.
Japan put
Just to
in.
clarify, that explains why states say they're bidding like they're on eBay, because the supplies are going to the private sector, and then they have to go there to get the supplies.
That's normally how things work, right? So I'm not here to disrupt a supply chain. So look, these 6 distributors, 6, 7, they have 600 to 700 warehouses. They have trucks to go to the hospital door every day. We're bringing product in. They're filling orders for hospitals, nursing homes, like normal. I'm putting volume into that system. I would say that we have the data now. So we put together this data element over the last, 13 days. Get the people in, look at the problem, build this. I am now seeing truth about what's in the supply chain, and I would say that there's been some abnormal behavior. Okay?
Yes, thank you, Admiral. House Oversight Committee Democrats say that FEMA officials told them that the ventilators that the government has ordered won't be ready until June, which is well after the expected peak. Will the Defense Production Act memo signed today do anything to speed that up?
Yes, I will. Mr. Navarro
I
will
don't know
talk
what
about
that
that. We're online to receive several thousand ventilators in the month of April and several thousand more ventilators in the month of May, ramping up to a big
about
number in
BBC?
June.
Oh,
Again,
I'm sorry.
you going from an industry that produces about 30,000 annual to a very big number.
Thank you for the tea.
Confident that
I'm
the
with you.
system means the states with the greatest need are getting the supplies.
Yeah, so,
Because a lot of governors are saying that they can't get what they need, and different states have more pressing urgency, obviously, depending on the caseload.
So we marry up, we're marrying up where
Yeah, they're protecting Jared.
where
They
the
always do.
demand for COVID is to what's in the commercial
Jared,
system.
man.
We're providing that to to the commercial system, and we are making allocations to those of most pressing need. 13 days, we now have the data. We now can make informed decisions. And so all of the I need, I now know the volume that has been happening. it needs to be happening.
So, Admiral, with that, and Mr. President, I'd love for you to weigh in on this as well. You talk about, well, you alluded to the fact that there is possibly some shady business going on, that the product is here in the United States.
And coming here.
Yes, and it is coming here. It's coming from China. It's in warehouses. It's being made here in the United States. It's in warehouses, but it's going to the highest bidder. So, what can be done to keep those products here in the United States, not go overseas where companies are making a lot of money, and get it distributed to the most critical places here in the U.S. I would love to hear.
How is the market going to fix this?
How's that being done? Because doctors, I've talked to surgeons on a regular basis.
Let me give you the bigger view of the DPA, and we'll directly address that. What we have essentially is a nation at war. We have a wartime president standing behind me. The Defense Production Act is one of the most powerful weapons this administration can use to fight the invisible enemy of the virus. When I spoke with you last week, I explained the 3 points of the compass DPA can be used to hit. The first one is mobilization of the industrial base. This can involve things like repurposing from, say, a distiller like Pernod Ricard, from liquor to hand sanitizer. It can also involve expansion of production, which is having Honeywell, which makes N95 masks, open a new factory in Smithfield, Rhode Island. With respect to the second point of the compass, allocation of resources, we have 2 issues there. If you look at the manufacturer itself, what you want to make sure is that the supply chain, which can go 7 tiers deep, has enough components in that supply chain so we can actually make what we need. And then once it's made, you also want to make sure that it goes to the right people. And then the third point of the compass, which addresses what you're talking about, is basically bust them, I call it, hoarding of critical or threatened materials. So let me walk through what the President did today in terms of a strong action, what we've done DPA across those 3 points. The first order President Trump signed was vigorous, swift. It was the GM order which directed GM to make ventilators in Kokomo, Indiana in Trump time, which is to say as fast as possible. As the President mentioned, he spoke to Mary Barra today, the CEO of GM. That is moving forward at the same time as the Ford project is moving forward in Rawsonville, Michigan, and I've issued a challenge to those 2 companies, a la Ford versus Ferrari. This is Ford versus GM. Let's see who gets those ventilators out first. Now, the second point of the compass, which these 2 orders address today, is this allocation of resource issues. The ventilator companies themselves expressed concern that in this rush to build ventilators, there would be pressure on that supply chain. So what they requested that we do and the President do is to use the DPA to give this gentleman here, is one of the strongest gentlemen in the world in terms of applying things, is to give him the ability to prioritize that supply chain for those ventilator manufacturers.
I'm not writing them, Coggins. If you've
give them what's called
one,
the DO
I will
rating
edit it. I'm not writing people's papers.
Which will allow them to get what they need.
I'm not down with that.
The second order, which the President signed today,
I'll edit it.
has to do
nice try, though.
with the other part of the equation, which is once they make the stuff, okay, where does it go to the right folks? And this is a 3M order. And to be frank, over the last several days, we've had some issues making sure that all of the production that 3M does around the world.
Sorry, you're wrong.
Enough of it is coming back here to the right places. So what's going to happen with the signing of that order in Trump time is we're going to resolve that issue with 3M probably by tomorrow close of business, because we can't afford to lose days or hours, even minutes in this crisis.
What do you mean, oh, no?
Now, the third part of the compass, this third point there, this gets to the hoarding issue. The President stood up here with he's the commander-in-chief, but we have a sheriff in town too, Attorney General Barr. And he stood up here with Attorney General Barr, and Bill Barr said, I'm going to go out and bust him. And guess what? 3 days ago, DOJ went into a warehouse in Jersey.
I know. He's really good. He's a showman. He's the guy who came up with the
And
idea of like
beauty
economic
the beauty
nationalism,
of that
basically, where
wasn't only
you know,
seized, but within
we need to close
hours,
the
it was turned
borders.
around and given to healthcare
We need to protect
professionals in New York
workers
and New Jersey.
by
That's a beautiful
kicking out
thing. That's a
immigrants.
beautiful case of using the DPA. Now, what's going to happen tomorrow is the President's going to sign another order, which is in the
Trump played a
works.
card assuming this would
This
be
is
like Ebola.
interesting.
Yeah.
There is a black
He
market
gambled.
springing up, which you have described.
Trump gambled on this.
Where
he
we're
lost.
having people
And now
bid
he's dealing with the
against each other. Brokers come in. They're bidding and bidding on all this different PPE. It's driving the price up. And guess what? You know where it's going? The domestic sources here are being exported. When President Trump heard about that, he said, that's not going to happen anymore under my watch. So tomorrow, we're bringing that order, and what's going to do is it's going to empower Customs and Border Protection with the help of people like the Post
This
Office
is a good article
and Express
about
Mail
Navarro, if you guys
consigners,
are interested.
like UPS, to basically deal with that issue. So we are going to crack down unmercifully. And I would say to the hoarders out there, the brokers who are trying to make money off the misery of people in this country or around the world, that's got to stop. And if you've got inventory, what you need to do is pick up a phone and not call somebody out around the world. You call FEMA and say, we got some stuff, we'll give it to you at a fair price, and be done with that, because that stuff has absolutely got to
see,
stop.
Peter
So
Navarro is like-
hang on. So that's
big on,
what we're going to be looking
taking
for,
out
and when we hear cases like this, we're going to aggressively issue order after order to crack down on it. Now, this is
Trade war.
not my role to take a bunch of questions, but let me tell you one other thing before I leave the podium. It's a story which I'd love to share with you today, because this again illustrates one of the key principles of this president and this vice president, which is to wed the full force of the federal government with the full power of private enterprise. And just 2 days ago, we at the White House got an urgent SOS from the chief of police of the New York Police Department. And they are in a situation now, because of the strain on their resources, where personnel such as their homicide detectives were having to go on into houses and deal with COVID issues without
That'd be
protective
Secretary
gear.
of State of
Now, the beauty of this president
I don't
is
think so.
because of his leadership, we were able to solve that problem in 2 phone calls. 2 phone calls. The first one went to Phoebe Novakovic at General Dynamics. Phoebe, can you call Tom Kennedy at Raytheon? I need you guys to basically scoop up all the Tyvek suits you can and find any gloves you can. This president, under his leadership, and the voluntary efforts and the pride and patriotism you talked about earlier, that we had 4,000 Tyvek suits delivered to the New York PD within 16 hours. That's a new record in Trump time. At the same time, a second phone call was made to Tara Engel at Pernod Ricard and Laura Lane at UPS. They were on the
Trump
same
time,
phone
that's one
call.
of
They
his
said,
things
Tara,
he likes to
Laura,
say.
we got this issue. They need hand sanitizer. Literally, within 2 hours, we had 50-gallon drums, 6,000 gallons of hand sanitizer on a UPS truck heading up to the NYPD, and it probably arrived today with a promise from Pernod that they will continue to supply the NYPD throughout the course of this
he's an
crisis.
anti-globalist,
So
basically.
this is a beautiful thing that America is rallying to. We are becoming a stronger, more united nation, and I couldn't be more proud of this president, this administration.
He's trying to boost
These
up
guys
American
up here are
industry.
doing a heck of a
This is
job
what's gonna save us.
organizing the supply chain.
I mean, like, it's interesting
and
how the
my
their
promise to
politics
you
play into it.
is that the president is going to use that DPA to make sure that the American people, particularly our healthcare professionals, get the PPE, the medicines, everything we need. So let me stop there. I don't think it's my place here to field a bunch of questions.
Good job. Thank you.
Okay.
What's the status of the Buy American executive order?
Go ahead, no, go ahead, Ed, you go ahead.
Okay.
Come here.
One of the things that this crisis has taught us, sir, is that we are dangerously over-dependent on a global supply chain.
See, this is what he's going to
For our medicines, like penicillin, our medical supplies, like masks, and our medical equipment, like ventilators. We have right now, as we speak, over 50 countries have already imposed some forms of export restrictions in their country against the rest of the world. And what we're learning from that is that no matter how many treaties you have, no matter how many alliances, no matter how many phone calls, when push comes to shove, you run the risk as a nation of not having what you need. And if there's any vindication of the president's buy American, secure borders, and a strong manufacturing base philosophy, strategy, and belief, it is this crisis, because it underscores everything that we see there. So the Buy American order, which is going through process, would do a couple things. It would simply say, not during this crisis, because we don't want to disrupt anything. I want to be really clear about that. But going forward, after this is over, the VA, DOD, HHS, and this government buys American for essential medicines, our medical countermeasures, and the medical supplies and equipment we need. At the same time, it will deregulate so we can get the FDA and EPA to facilitate domestic manufacturing, and then innovate. Because the key here is having advanced manufacturing on U.S. soil that can leapfrog other countries so we don't have to worry about competing against cheap sweatshop labor, lax environmental regulations, different tax regimes, and the massive subsidies of foreign governments who are actually directly attacking our industrial base. So be patient with that, sir. The other priorities we have right now are the DPA and what the task force is doing. But if we learn anything from this crisis, it should be never again should we have to depend on the rest of the world for our essential medicines and countermeasures.
And by the way, we've cut them out also, to be honest. We've stopped orders going from certain places. And in a couple of places, like we had a big order going to Italy on important outfits and some ventilators, and it was going to Italy. They made the order a long time ago. And I said, you got to let it go. They had an order, and I could have cut it. Under the act, I could have cut it. I said, nope, you can't do that. You got to let it go. You know, they have big problems. We had an order going to Spain, and I said, let it go. I could have stopped it. I said, let it go. We're going to be fine. I said, let it go. So it works that way also. One other thing as to your question, oftentimes, and we've told this to the governors, Mike, we've been very strong on this, if you think there's bidding between federal government and state, let us know, and we'll drop out immediately. Or you drop out.
We already got this supply from Canada.
And we lower the
France,
price.
Against each other.
No. If we're bidding against each other, I said, find out who it is. And usually they know. Everyone knows. And we're notified, and we get notified, and we'll either drop out or they'll drop out. But we have another problem. There are 151 countries out there beyond the states. There are 151 countries that have this problem. And they're ordering too.
Right.
It's really a mess. Now, in a little while, the hardest thing to get are the ventilators because they're, it takes a while to build them. And we have thousands of them being built right now. In a little while, they'll be worth about $5. But right now, they're very valuable. And we're going to have a lot of them being shipped. In fact, that's why General Motors called up before Mary. That's why others called up 2 days ago. They called up that they're all in production.
In the West.
And they're starting to arrive in a week and a half.
I don't know about
But
that.
there'll be a time when we're going to build stockpiles. By the way, the
Definitely
states
didn't turn it
should have
into a
been
liberal
building their
democracy.
stockpile. We have almost 10,000 in our stockpile, and we've been building it, and we've been supplying it. But the states should be building. We're a backup. We're not an ordering clerk. We're a backup. And we've done an unbelievable job. Like, for instance, who ever heard of a governor calling up, sir, can you build us a hospital of 2,500 rooms? And we built it. Can you build us 4 medical centers? We built it. Can you deliver a ship, a hospital ship, with 1,000 rooms? And we did it. And we did it in Los Angeles, too. We've been an unbelievable.
These companies aren't already
job.
kowtowing
These
to
people,
us, like.
And thousands of people behind them. But we're a backup.
Have you
Ideally,
ever
those hospitals
have you
would
ever
have
read
all
about
this equipment.
the military,
Ideally,
U.S.
those
military
states should have
involvement
had all
in
this
Hollywood
equipment,
movies?
And I think they will the next time. You heard the case where thousands of ventilators could have been had at a very inexpensive price 3 years ago. And a certain state decided not to exercise that right because they wanted to build a road or they wanted to build something else because it's big money. You're talking about, I think it was $1 billion, but you're talking about a lot of money for something that may never happen. Because normally on a ventilator, other than a pandemic or an epidemic, you wouldn't need anything like this. Hospitals have 3 ventilators, big hospitals, and they get by with it. And now they want thousands. I mean, they want thousands of ventilators. You call up a governor and they'll say, sir, could you send us 40,000 ventilators? Nobody has ever heard of a thing like this. So they've
Mountain Dew,
done
I
some
can talk
job.
about it later. It's a
Let me
little
just tell
too
you,
complicated
when
to get into right now.
Secretary
This is
Mnuchin
interesting.
spoke,
This is an
they
interesting
want you to
one.
call not .com, but SBA.gov, okay, for the application.
This one
and for
really
information.
revealed sort of the
Okay,
political
so it's
philosophy
SBA,
behind
small business,
his
SBA.gov.
response.
Okay?
It's all about the
If you don't
market.
mind. Yeah, let's
Very
go,
skeptical
please.
of
Sir.
federal
Thank you, Mr.
government.
President. I want to
Very
follow
skeptical
up
of
from a question
globalism.
yesterday regarding your administration's denial of the expansion of Obamacare's special enrollment period. In the wake
Yeah,
of
they're
this
not
pandemic, in your own
expanding
words,
Obamacare.
VP Pence gave a 5-minute non-answer, but people facing this pandemic illness and even worse, most experts say that having health care is critical to our nation's health and
Yeah.
financial well-being.
Yeah.
Can you assure Americans tonight that you will reopen Obamacare marketplace so that they can be covered in this time of combined
Well,
health
we're doing
and
better than that.
financial
Yeah,
crisis?
no, I understand the question, and we're doing better than that. We're going to try and get a cash payment to the people, and we're working out the mechanics of that with legislature.
What's that
So
mean, though?
We're going to try and get them a cash payment because
Yeah,
just
but-
opening it up doesn't help as much. So we're going to work it out. So we're going to try and get for that certain group of people, it's a certain group of people, a cash payment.
That has
I really
nothing
want to
to
ask
do
you
with
about masks, but I also just wanted to follow up on a couple of hanging threads there. Just the question earlier about the bidding. What happens though when states are bidding against
Yeah,
each
he's a
other
businessman.
on
This
those
is
Well,
like-
they have that, and they have to work that
This
out.
is how a businessman
What they should
handles
do
this.
is they should have, long before this pandemic arrived, they should have been on the open market just buying. There was no competition. You
See,
could have
that's
made a
what
great price.
that's what he's saying.
The states have to stock up. It's
He's
like
blaming the
one of those
states.
things. They waited.
Oh,
They
my
didn't want to spend the money
God.
because they thought this would never happen. And their shelves, in some cases, were bare. And by the way, in some cases, they weren't. They were beautifully serviced. They did a good job. But in some cases, their shelves were bare. So the best thing they can do is when times become normalized, and they will, hopefully soon. And actually, you're going to have a lot of excess material because so much is being done right now in terms of protective gear,
I
protective
don't know, man.
outfits.
If there was ever
lot's
a
being
task
done.
for
It's
the
gonna
federal
be
government,
within
it would be
6
to
months, it's gonna
protect
be
people against the
sold for the right
pandemic.
price.
You know,
They got to stack up for the next time. But
That's
we
like
are
saying
doing
every-
that, and the
every
Admiral's
state needs
done
to
a
have, like, an
fantastic
army that
job.
could fight off.
Senator Schumer wrote a letter today, and he says, you should put a military man in charge. I said, well, Chuck, if you knew a little bit more, we have one of the most highly respected people in the military, the Admiral. This is what he does, too, very professionally.
Yeah, but the
And,
National
he's
Guard
in
is not going to
charge.
come.
But Chuck
This is
didn't
like
know
an
that.
invasion of.
Okay,
you
Jeff
know,
first.
How's the National
tweeted
Guard
this
going to
morning
fight
about
back?
your call with Saudi Arabia's MBS. We've had some people say that the figures that you cited between 10 million and 15 million barrels per day is not what they're agreeing to. Can you be more specific about what
I don't know what
exactly
they're
they
agreeing
told
to.
us?
I think they might agree to more than that. Look,
Did
Russia.
he tell you that, sir?
Russia, yeah, we did say that actually. Russia talked about 10 million barrels. Russia and Saudi Arabia are fighting
No
over
issue,
this.
only 12 cases
and
and only
as
0.
everybody
Right.
knows, it's really killing an industry, hurting Russia badly, hurting Saudi Arabia badly.
People could have stocked
I
up
said,
if he wasn't.
It's an easy one.
downplaying
It should be an
everything.
easy one. And it may be 10, and it may be more than that. I was actually told it may be 10, as I told somebody before. It may be 10, and it may be more than that. Maybe it's 15. Maybe it goes up to 15. Could be as high as 15. And, there's a tremendous oversupply right now. That industry was oversupplied before the virus, and when the virus came along, they lost 35-40% of the world. And there's an unbelievable, you can't get a ship now. Every ship is loaded to the gills, sitting out someplace in the ocean. They're storage tanks. They're not even ships, they're storage tanks. So it would be great for Russia. It would be great for Saudi Arabia. I hope they make that deal, but that's what they told me. They said well, I think it'll be hopefully.
I don't really know what's
soon.
going on here, to be
I think
honest.
hopefully they'll announce something soon.
I don't know what
Now,
they're talking about. Do
Can
you?
a deal be broken?
You guys know
Can
what they're talking
something
about?
happen where it doesn't happen? I guess.
What about it, though?
In which case, there's another alternative. But I'd rather not see that other alternative. I hope they can make a deal. I think they both want to make a deal. and they're both smart.
You're talking about Saudi Arabia.
They love their
and Russia?
countries. They want to make a deal. It's good, but it's also good for the world if they do, because you save an industry.
Oh,
Yeah, please.
Saudi Arabia and Russia are
Go
in
ahead,
the
in the
price
back.
war.
What do you mean by cash payments?
I'm going to let Mike, because we went over this very specifically, and I'll let you talk about it, Mike, because you responded last time.
Right, thank you, Mr. President.
They're trying to slash oil.
As I said yesterday, the President's put a priority on ensuring that no American has to worry about the cost of coronavirus testing, and we've been working every day to make sure that Americans don't have to worry about the cost of treatment. And at this point, the White House Coronavirus Task Force is working on a proposal for the President to use some of the $100 billion that we're making available to hospitals to compensate the hospitals directly for any
2 years ago, we started
coronavirus
focusing the
treatment
Army
that they
towards
provide to
operating
uninsured
underground.
Americans.
Really?
We're working out the details of that.
Interesting.
The President will make a final decision
That's
tomorrow. We expect an announcement, but the President's made it very clear. We don't want any American
They were anticipating
to worry about the cost of getting a test or the cost of getting treatment. And we've expanded coverage through Medicaid. We've expanded coverage through Medicare. Health insurance companies around the
kinda
country,
creepy.
including Blue Cross,
Fighting in like.
just today announced that all of their
You ever played
members
Metro 2033?
will be
That's
waiving
what
all
that game's about.
co-payments on coronavirus treatment. Before those some
Dude,
30
the
odd
world's
million
becoming so much like
uninsured
a video game now.
Americans,
I think
the President
video
has
games have
directed
become
the
incredibly
Coronavirus Task Force to
relevant.
find a way to make sure that they know we will find a way to pay for your coronavirus treatment, and the President will be addressing that and announcing that tomorrow.
Mr. President, a point of clarification and then a follow-up question. Yesterday you said that you spoke to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis before he issued his stay-at-home order. Did you advise him to issue that order?
No, but I talked to him about it, and he wants to do what's right for the people of Florida. He's been a great governor. You could see that just by his popularity, which is extraordinary.
Yeah,
We're proud
Ron
of him.
DeSantis
He's,
was like the
done a
last big
fantastic
holdup.
job, and he made the decision. But we spoke before he made the decision.
Too little, too late,
He
man.
also said that he is considering putting
Florida's gonna
people
be
who are
fucked, I think.
suspected of having coronavirus or who have tested positive for it in
How's Florida
isolation
doing right now?
centers, and that he could
That I
potentially use
haven't
hotels.
heard, no, that I haven't.
So he hasn't consulted with
I
you.
haven't heard that, yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ebony Bowden from the New York Post. A few hours ago, Mayor de Blasio, the mayor of New York, said that New Yorkers leaving their homes should wear masks. They should also wear masks when they're with other people.
Rosa, the
Are
governor
you
said he was
considering
waiting
that
to
kind
hear
of
from the White
recommendation
House
on
on
a
what
federal
to
level?
do.
And if you are, how would you prevent a rush on N95 masks?
Well, I think they're going to be coming out with regulations on that, and if people want to abide by them, frankly, I don't think they'll be mandatory, because some people don't want to do that. But if people wanted, as an example on the masks, if people wanted to wear them, they can. If people wanted to use scarves, which they have, many people have them, they can. In many cases, the scarf is better. It's thicker. I mean, you can, depending on the material, it's thicker.
Okay.
But they can do that if they want. Now, a recommendation's coming out. We'll see what that recommendation is.
Any recommendations, sir?
But I will say this.
Yeah, put out
they
their
can pretty
recommendation,
much
man.
decide for themselves right now.
Nationwide, and can I also just
Nationwide.
ask, maybe nationwide, not just for hotspots, and then maybe this is best for Dr. Burks, but we've heard some
Oy,
different
oy, oy.
guidance.
Really?
WHO,
That sucks.
Even the Surgeon General have talked about
Sucks,
various
Melon.
studies that show that masks,
Everybody's
in addition to
relationship is
maybe
under
not
strain
even
now,
being
I think.
helpful to protecting people, may actually increase the rates of illness because people touch the masks.
You think
and they
Trump and
touch
Ivanka
themselves.
or
Can you talk a little
Ivana
bit
are
about
having
that?
issues
Maybe I
now?
will
Probably
ask
not. They don't
Dr.
even live
Burks.
together.
And you might mention that other point also.
No, thank
Oh,
you.
Deborah Brooks is here.
So
Speaking of
I hope you
scarves.
got from the conference today that we're triangulating
Oh,
data that we
Melania.
know
Yeah,
from
Melania.
the
Ivana
case
is his mom,
numbers,
right?
the testing numbers, the supply chain numbers to create an integrated picture so that we can really support hospitals in their needs. And I think that level of granularity is really critical. Secondly, I just want to make the point that we really applaud the governors that are looking at a whole of state or a whole of metro approach. And what do I mean by that? The United States, going into this, had about 160,000 ventilators across the United States and another 60 to 70,000 anesthesia machines. That's about 5 times what most of the European countries have. But it's a matter of distribution to need, and I really applaud the governors that are bringing together their public hospitals with their more private hospitals and their visibility across their state.
That's what we're doing.
Because what we
in
tried to
LA
talk
or
about
in
yesterday is every state, every county is different. And that's why we're looking at it at that level of granularity. And as we move through this epidemic, the needs need to be very tailored to those counties and, frankly, those hospitals. I mean, there's a reason why the president and Mr. Kushner have been very much involved in finding out what the public hospitals need. Why is that? Because the public hospitals sometimes have the weakest supply chain because they're often sometimes not as attractive to private sector distributors, or they may be too busy caring for the needs of patients to be really on top of their order forms and their supply chains. So really listening to the community that's at the front of this fight and getting feedback from those specific communities, no matter where
I read an
they
article
are,
in the Times,
and
LA
listening to
Times,
the
that both
frontline healthcare workers,
New York Times, that both like
because
rich
it's
and
their
poor
reality
hospitals are dealing
that
with.
is important to all of us, whether you're the mayor or the governor or the federal government. And if they are saying they need something, we have to work together to supply that. And so that's what you're seeing with this triangulation. Every county will move through this differently, and that allows us to move around these vital issues that protect the frontline healthcare workers and protect the patients through the ventilators to make sure that the supply chain is aligned with the need as it happens.
His dad
you have
was.
to have very good data
Kushner's dad was a horrible
in order to be willing to
slumlord, I think.
work in that level of granularity. And that's what we've been working on to really develop that level of granularity to ensure that. So I just wanted to say one other thing about testing, just to give you the bottom line data of what we're seeing.
Jared, too.
We appreciate the groups who are reporting. Not everyone is reporting yet. And this is part of us trying to understand at a very granular level. We do have 2 states that do have 35%
Got it from
positives,
like father, like son,
and that's
I
New
guess.
York and New Jersey. So that confirms very clearly that that's a very clear
this is the
and
person who's
important
going to save
hotspot.
us. You know?
Louisiana,
Fucking
though, has
slumlord.
26% of their tests are positive. Michigan, Connecticut, Indiana, Georgia, Illinois, so that should tell you where the next hotspots are coming, are at 15% test positive, and then Colorado, DC, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts are at 13%. There's a significant number of states still under 10%, every one that I didn't discuss. California and Washington remain steady at an 8% rate.
Okay.
So what we're seeing finally is testing improving, more testing being done, still a high level of negatives in states without hotspots, allowing them to do more of this surveillance and
That means
containment.
we're not.
And then prioritizing this new rapid test
blasting
kit
out.
to those areas that may not have the same
No,
amount
they
of
said
access to the
200,000.
Indian health
100 to
services
200,000.
and to the public health institutions and the public health and state labs, so that they can use that and start forward leaning into
I'd watch
surveillance.
ice streaming this.
Now,
would be
we
funny.
know
don't,
that our
don't
people
tell him
waiting
that though,
for
because
tests,
he'll
and they're
eat
waiting
into
for
my
tests
viewership. You know.
Because when these areas became when they got onto the logarithmic curve, we
think he would get bored
prioritized
in a
people
second.
whose decisions, where the test decision would make it critical for their care. And so we prioritized hospitals, and we prioritized nurses and doctors and frontline workers. So that means if you went through a drive-through or you went through your doctor, you could have that delay. So the masks. So what I tried to give you is how we're using data in a very granular way. And so there's experiential data when you look at communities that have oftentimes utilized masks in general for personal protection from when they particularly are themselves
Thanks, Mountain Dew.
sick and have
I
used their
appreciate
mask
it.
in public. And we've looked at the rate of this
Usually when I stream
COVID-19 in those
When
populations.
ice streams though, my
And then we're looking
viewership
at the scientific
goes from,
evidence.
you know,
To bring those
a
two
whopping
pieces
20
together.
to
Let me just say one thing, though.
But that's
the
cool.
most important thing is the social distancing and washing your hands.
What'd
And
you
we
say
don't
about
want
masks?
people to get an artificial sense of protection because they're behind a mask. Because if they're touching things, remember, your eyes are not in the mask. So if you're touching things and then touching your eyes, you're
I don't know,
exposing
I think-
yourself in the same way.
I think
So we
people-
don't want people to feel like, oh, I'm wearing a mask, I'm protected, and I'm protecting others. You may be protecting others, But don't get a false sense of security that that mask is protecting you exclusively from getting infected, because there are other ways that you can get infected because of the number of asymptomatic and mild cases that are out there. And so this worries us, and that's why the debate is continuing about the mask, because we don't want, when we're trying to send a signal that every single person in this country needs to stay 6 feet away from
She's
everybody.
touching that wooden thing in front of her.
That
right?
needs to be washing their hands constantly and know where their hands are. To send a signal that we think a mask is equivalent to those pieces. So when the advisory comes out, it will be an
We
additive
gave them
piece
2 streams of
if it
ghosted.
comes out, rather than saying this
I
is
don't
a
know what he's up
substitute
to.
for. And we want to make sure everybody understands it is not a substitute for the presidential guidelines that have already gone out. And to be
Should I try to like
absolutely
get
clear
partnered
about
on
that.
Mixer?
Quick
I only need like
the test.
I only need 800 more followers to
Okay.
partnered
There's a
on
lot
Mixer.
of evidence we're seeing,
do that.
experts are saying that a high number of these tests could be producing false negatives.
I
So
applied for the
the
verification,
Roche and
I haven't
Abbott
done it
test?
yet.
that as many as 1 in 3 tests might be providing false negatives. I was wondering maybe you could explain.
That would
talk a little
almost
bit about
be
the science.
impossible with having 35% positives.
First stream back on
If
YouTube
that
is
was
getting
true,
callers.
you would
I
have
know.
Sorry about the
100%
underlying
positive
data
or
here.
66% positive. So what I can tell you is the number of positive tests is tracking very closely with the number of cases diagnosed. So
I was reading
don't-
about masks this
I will
morning.
look into that. I look at the Roche and Abbott numbers
I mean,
every night.
in Asia, it's
they're
like
trending
very-
exactly in the same
very
way.
normal to wear masks.
And that's important when you're validating data to really
And they don't give
validate.
it-
Does this
they don't-
same
it doesn't
site?
give them a
In other words, I'm
false-
looking between testing sites.
Doesn't
to
give
see
them a
are there
false sense of
consistencies?
of
Is there an
safety.
anomaly?
It's like courtesy.
Make
They
sure
do
for
it to,
what you
to
just
protect
very
other people, you know?
specifically asked. So I will go back and look at it more carefully. I haven't seen that kind of anomaly. This same platform is being used across
down
the
for the
country,
stream
and
tonight.
that's
What,
a
you
range
wanna stream
from
outside
I
today?
reported 3% positivity.
I'm not going
up to
outside, man.
35% positivity.
You're not supposed to go outside.
And that range reflects also what we're seeing with the hot spots and the number of cases. And frankly, I mean, we hate to talk about it, but it also tracks with the
If you wanna play a
hospitalizations
game or
independent
something,
of
you have a
diagnosis
PC?
and the mortality that we're seeing. So all of those pieces validate
Concerned that
together.
people might be getting a
He
false
handled
sense
it
of
well.
security, or that we might not be seeing all of the
Which
data
is just
here
the
on
reason why it's spreading.
Well, I'm telling you, I'm still missing 50% of the data from reporting. I have 660 tests reported in. We've done 1.3 million. So there is, and it could be those sites, so we do need
I'm not
to
gonna,
see
I'm not gonna
all-
IRL
the bill
stream
said you
outside
need to
until
report.
they
We're
say we
still
can
not
leave.
receiving 100% of the tests.
Burks, with regard to the test, the
You could
president's sample
co-host on
collection took
stream.
1 minute, results were reported back in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I realize you're the president of the United States, but when will everyone get to take a test that works that quickly and you get results that quickly?
I mean, I'm going outside a little bit.
So these are
you
new
know, to
tests,
walk or to go
and we have prioritized the groups that
go
we think have the least access
get
to
groceries,
testing.
but I just feel
What
like
do we mean
streaming
by that?
now outside
We
is
mean
a
the Indian
little
Health Service. They're
irresponsible.
often in remote areas, rural areas. The governors of the northwestern states that may not have the advantage of these high throughput machines
you
that
wanna
are
play-
often across the
I don't know if
East
you have a
Coast
PC,
and
we
in
can
high
play
metro
something.
areas, Colorado, and then across the West Coast. So we've prioritized the presidential 15-minute test to the Indian Health Services and public health labs so that they can support nursing home testing and other areas where we think surveillance is absolutely key. So at this moment, they're prioritized in that way.
I don't know.
Yes,
My girlfriend would kill me.
1,200
I
of them
think.
are going out in that way.
More of those tests need to be made in order for
They
more
are
people.
being made.
Yeah.
Okay, so in a matter of,
They're moving to
IRL.
So I'm
Yeah, I'm not
glad you
gonna
asked
IRL.
that, because today,
Sorry,
there's
man.
18,000
Maybe after
of
it's
these
done, I will.
machines
That'd be fun.
already out there. We're trying to find out exactly where everyone is, because you can see that gives you amazing flexibility. Because if people would allow it to be loaned
No,
to a
he's not
state that's
kidding.
in a
He
hot
DM'd
spot
me.
or a state where you want to do
He wants me to
additional
go over
surveillance,
and then
18,000
do IRL streaming.
tests, 18,000 machines is a huge amount, and it really gets to your very question about how we can prioritize what we have at the same time. we're
Boys will
moving out
quarantine
what
after
is
the
needed.
virus
And
passes.
so really
Boys should be
figuring
in
out
self-isolation.
who should those go to, how
I go
can we
outside
ask
too, but,
communities,
you
because
know,
these
for a
will be
quick
in the
walk or
community,
something. I'm not
to
gonna
share those machines into the community who need the testing
broadcasting
now.
outside.
And I think that's really an incredible question that really needs to be answered over the next 24 hours.
Moises.
A point of clarity about the face covering guidance. You said it's still a point of debate. You said to use the phrase "the guidance" if it comes out. Is the guidance coming
Moises
out?
needs his coffee.
Yes.
And when, sir?
In the days ahead, we're currently working through the task force.
No, I'm social isolating. I'm going outside a little bit.
We'll be bringing
I'm not meeting up
forward,
with anybody.
The guidance from the CDC in the next several days.
Just remember, it's not a
Moises is
substitute
a super
for
spreader.
everything that we're asking people to do. And just to everybody out there across the country, when we say no gatherings of 10, we're looking at, we wanted to be clear, if you have a family of 10, we don't want you to be split up. But we don't expect people to be having dinner parties, cocktail parties. I mean, I know you've seen the slope in the United States versus the slope in Italy. And we have to change that slope.
We're doing bad. We're doing bad.
Just change the logarithmic curve that we're on. We see country after country having done that. What it means in the United States is not everyone is doing it. So we're only as strong as every community, every county, every state, every American
but Italy's a
following
little
the
further
guidelines
down.
to a T. And I can
Maybe
tell by
in the
the
next
curve,
few days.
and as it is today, that not every American is following
Yeah,
it.
wedding
So this
receptions
is
are
really
canceled.
a call to action.
Be a good time to
We
get
see
married if you
Spain,
didn't
we
want
see
to
Italy,
pay for a
we
wedding.
see France, we see Germany, when we see others beginning to bend their curves, we can bend ours, but it means everybody has to take that same responsibility as Americans.
Mr. President. Mr. President, can I have a quick follow-up on oil, please? In your conversations with Russia and Saudi Arabia, did you have to make any concessions to get them to agree to cut their production? Like, did you agree to cut U.S. production of oil?
We didn't discuss that. They want to do that. It's good for their countries, and we did not discuss that now.
I mean, maybe we can start
And NBC News has learned that the Navy is set to fire the captain of the USS Theodore Roosevelt after he raised red flags about the COVID-19 outbreak on his ship. It appears as if he's being punished for trying to save the lives of the sailors in his command.
No, I don't
What's
think
your
so
assessment?
at all, but we're going to wait a little while because I understand there's a news conference by the Secretary of Defense
Why are
about
they gonna
that. But,
fire
you know,
that guy?
I don't agree with that.
Cover
at all.
up. Cover up.
Not at all, not even a little bit. Yeah?
Thank you. This morning, you said once again that New York got off to a late start and they should have pushed harder. But governors and other state leaders say they rely on the federal government to assess the situation and how risky it is. And they want to know,
no shit.
how would they have known to start sooner without your guidance?
Well, they have experts, and frankly, long after we came out and talked about it, look, how would I have known to cut off China? I cut off China very early, and if I didn't, we would have a chart that you wouldn't believe. So how would I know to do that? How would I know to cut off Europe? I cut off Europe very early. I mean, you have to make a decision. People knew that
Didn't
some bad
contract
things were going
trace
on, and they got off
500
to a
people
late
in
start.
2 months, et cetera.
And
Right.
some
Yeah.
others got off to
That
a
could
late
have
start
helped if
also.
we actually
But we cut
tested,
off
if we actually
China. If we didn't cut off China,
have the competency
we
to
would
do
have been
everything
in
that
some
needed.
Big trouble. And we
That's all
cut
I
it
can
off.
do is cut
And you know
people
what?
off.
We cut it off way early. Go ahead.
Mr. President, to follow up on the insurance point in a separate question that came in from a colleague who can't be in the room. On the
Trump
insurance
failed.
point,
He failed
is
everything
there
about
going-
this.
Roll call. Is there going to be an opportunity for insurance companies, if in fact hospitals are compensated for uncompensated care, are the insurance companies going to also get compensated for extraordinary expenses that they may have, or are they assuming that cost?
So we haven't discussed it, but we're talking to them. Getting them not to pay copays in the case of the big ones was a tremendous thing. That's a lot of money they gave up. But we're discussing that with the
People
insurance
still
companies.
think that he's
We'll
doing a
let you
good
know.
job.
It'll be
though,
pretty
I think.
quickly. Yeah, go ahead.
Polls show that people think he's doing
question
a
on
good job.
Japan, sir.
Why?
They are expanding their entry
anyone
ban
in here
to
think he's
include
doing
the
a good
United
job?
States. Are you planning to take any similar action to ban Japanese nationals from coming to the U.S. as a result of this crisis?
Well,
Dark hair will now he's doing good.
we're looking at a lot of things and a lot of different bans. We have more bans than anybody. We had bans when bans weren't fashionable, if you remember, right at the beginning of this administration. It was for different reasons.
Good-ish.
But we've had bans long before people thought of bans. When I did China, it had never been done before. I was the first one to do it. Remember that? It had never, according to what I read in all the papers, this had never been done. This is a terrible thing to do. And 4 weeks later, they were all saying, we're lucky we did it. So we're looking at it. No, we heard that. And I think it's fine that they do that. They're trying to protect their country, and we have to protect
Everyone
our
would have been
country.
shit in
Yeah, please.
Mr. President, I asked you yesterday
I don't
about
know.
stay-at-home orders, and if that, decision should be left in the hands of governors, or if you're considering telling the entire nation
I think they might have,
stay at home.
if they had some
So
experts
just
who actually were
today,
like, here's
the-
how we can handle it,
Georgia's
instead of
governor
just
finally
being like,
issued
it's
a
probably not gonna
stay-at-home
get bad,
order
and we start
saying
doing
that
it.
individuals could have been infecting people before they ever felt bad, but we didn't know that until the last 24 hours. Is that ignorance, gross incompetence?
He's a good governor, Brian Kemp. He's a
You've been
very
having
good.
calls with these
He's a
governors.
good governor, and he has to make his own decision on that. I let the states.
Sure, he's
I think
informed,
we're
he just
about
ignored it for a long
85%
time. Right.
positive on that. If you look, I think it's about 85% of the
Think
states
about how
have got to
Korea
stay at home.
reacted to us.
Brian's a great governor. It's his decision. He made that decision. Ultimately, he decided to go.
Yeah, I think some
along
liberals
with
probably
it.
erred on the
and
side
they're
of.
doing, and they're doing well, and the state's doing
I
well
didn't
in
think
many
it was going to be
respects.
this bad.
Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't
please.
think it would be this bad.
this is not
I probably would have reacted the same way, but
Good.
also I don't
Today
have a
from
huge
Emily
body of
Goodin
experts
at
who would
the
be
Daily
able to
Mail.
tell me what to do.
I had a question in regards to the Russian plane that landed at JFK with medical supplies. Did the United States ask Russia for this aid, or is it just accepting it?
We're accepting it. It was a very nice offer from President Putin. I spoke to him the other night, as I told you.
This is such a
and,
troll move, by the way.
They had excess medical equipment,
The
things,
equipment from
and I'll take it. I'll take it. I think it's very nice. We've had some from China. We also help other
right,
countries. We like doing that. Like I said before, if we have excess stuff, we let it go out. We let some go out where, frankly, they had orders for it, and I didn't want to stop orders. It was a very nice gesture on behalf of President Putin, and I could have said no thank you, or I could have said thank you. And it was a large plane of very high-quality medical supplies, and I said, I'll take it.
Offering any further aid in your
I
conversation?
think he would if we asked for it, but he was very nice. It was part of the call. He suggested, he said, we have it. It's additional. They have very big difficulties with this virus also, as you know, Russia. I thought it was a very nice gesture on behalf of President Putin. I could have said, no, I don't want it, or I could have said, I'll take it. And you know what I said? I'll take it.
Accept further aid?
I think so, yeah. If they send things that we need, I'd take it, sure. Nice gesture.
Propaganda?
No, I'm not concerned about Russian propaganda, not even a little bit. He offered a lot of medical, high-quality stuff that I accepted, and that may save a lot of lives. I'll take it every day. Please, in the back.
You said that in January you tweeted that you stand with the people of Iran since the beginning of your presidency, and you'll continue to stand with the people of Iran, given the fact they're so hard hit with coronavirus.
Oh, they're very hard hit.
But
They're
would you
very hard
consider
hit. In a lot of
using-
ways, they're hard hit. They're hit
Suspend
with their economy, with their
sanctions.
military, and with, obviously,
I
the
should get a
virus. They're
green
very
screen?
hard hit.
Would you consider easing sanctions to allow medical
Somebody said I
supplies to
shouldn't.
get in?
Well, they haven't even asked us to do
So
that.
that I would be like,
We know
in-
that sanctions hit the people,
of this?
not the government.
You know what? They haven't even asked us to do that. If they want to meet, would love to meet and would love to settle the whole thing out, but I doubt they'll be.
So realistically, how does a person in Tehran pick up the phone and call you?
I think they love America.
I don't know.
I think the Iranians love America. I think they'd love to be free. I think they'd love to have
It's not going to happen.
just
Lauren
some of
didn't
the
want
things
it.
that we have. You know, I remember Iran many years ago. Friends of mine were always in Iran. They were doing real estate deals in Iran. They were building beautiful buildings all over Iran,
She is
apartment
the boss.
houses. They were very successful.
Green suit.
And then one day that came to an end.
A green suit
But you know
died
what?
this
The people
year.
of Iran, they remember that. It was a long time ago, but not so long ago, and they remember it.
I
And
thought
I'll
she was
tell
gonna
you,
come over and
they
want
love
some food, but-
America. They love what we stand for. And we're not looking for change. We're not looking for government takeover, government change. You know, this country's been through that many times. That doesn't work.
People, would you encourage other countries who are maybe concerned
No,
about
but what I
running
did,
afoul
yeah, what I
of
did is, you know, I
sanctions
put
to-
it out very publicly with respect to Iran. I said, if they need help with respect to the virus, we'd love to send. We have the greatest medical professionals in the world. We'd love
What
to send
countries
them
are you
over.
encouraging, perhaps, to lend their support? Because there are many countries that
I'm not
feel
encouraging or discouraging. They've been a very
Hey,
hostile
Leafy,
country.
what's up?
They made a deal that President Obama should have never made. It was a short-term deal, giving them $150 billion,
They
giving
need
them
to lift the
$1.8 billion
sanctions. Come
in
on.
cash. Green,
At
Trump
least
has
for
ruled
veterans.
5 times.
Do you have a moral responsibility?
No, not at
to-
all. Nobody's even asked me about it. I have a moral responsibility to help them if they ask. If they needed help, I would certainly consider
The
different
United
things.
Nations says they need help.
Well, that's up to the United Nations. I'm talking about us.
What's semantics?
And what happens is if they wanted
Toxic
help,
question.
because they have a very big case of virus, a very, very big case. One of the worst on earth. If you
Geopolitical concerns would be
believe
far
what you're
worse
reading, and I
than
happen to believe what I
dangerous.
see and what I know. And if they
So I
wanted
think
help,
big
we'd give them
platforms should
help.
be
Yeah,
banning
you had
IRL
one in the
content.
back, please?
I think so, yeah.
And a question
People
for
shouldn't be
Jared,
going
too.
outside and doing shit.
You talk about a
Or they should
granular
just
approach to
be like, you
receiving
have to do
data
social
from these different
distancing on
states and
IRL.
regions to try and figure out what they need.
You can do
President
IRL in
just
your house.
Enacted the DPA on ventilators and masks. Are there any signals from across the country that might indicate there are other things besides masks and ventilators that are slowly kind of rising in terms of need, like hand sanitizer, for instance?
Sure. So the first issue that we've been dealing with was really the ventilators. That was the number 1, number 2, and number 3 from all the states. What we've been finding is that
I need a
people have a lot
soundboard.
of these requests based on the models, and what we've been trying to do.
I should be
over at
watching this
FEMA
with the soundboard, right?
Is say to the states, well, if you would like ventilators, we need to see first look in your states, right? So, for example, in northern Jersey, they're going down to southern Jersey and they're finding ventilators and trying to relocate them to where they have their hotspots. The
was
second
that
thing that
OAN?
we've done is we've asked them to survey for alternative ventilators. Dr. Berg spoke before about the anesthesia machines and the ability to convert them to be ventilators. So we're asking people to be resourceful
Why do I
inside
hate
their
him?
states
Because
before
he's
they
supposed
come
to
the
be like
federal
he's
government.
seen as like
The
the
third thing we've
moderate,
been asking states to do
you
is to
know,
provide what
reasonable
their daily
person,
utilization
young,
rates are.
cool.
So,
and he's just
everyone's asking
boosting
for everything.
Trump's
One
fucking
congressman got a
racist,
call
horrible
from his local hospital saying, "I need 250
administration.
ventilators." And he
And
said,
he's
well,
also a
you don't have a
nepotism
COVID
case.
patient within 4 counties. Why do you want 250 ventilators? And he says, well, we just want to be safe. We're very nervous right now. So what you have all over the country is a lot of people are asking for things that they don't necessarily need at the moment. And the job of FEMA and Admiral Plavchek has been to try to make sure that we're getting the real
liberal that
data
undermines
from
and
the
subverts
cities, from the
Trump's
states, that we
agenda.
can make real-time allocation
way.
decisions based on the data.
Did you
And
see
right
the
now what's
Israel-Palestine
happening
plan?
is a lot of the different cities and
That is
states
like
are providing
pure
FEMA that
right-wing
information. We're talking
Trump.
to them daily. They're updating that information daily, and that's enabling the federal government to make much more informed decisions on where they position ventilators. You also have a situation where in some states, FEMA allocated ventilators to the states, and you have instances where in cities they're running out, but the state still has a stockpile. And the notion of the federal stockpile was it's supposed to be our stockpile. It's not supposed to be
I
state
haven't seen his
stockpiles that
weak
they
order
then
shit,
use. So
no.
we're encouraging the states to make sure that they're assessing the needs, they're getting the data from their local situations, and then trying to fill it with the supplies that we've given them.
All the corporate
same
handouts
thing
and
with the
shit.
masks. So
I
the
don't know.
N95 mask
I haven't seen that.
is actually an item that wasn't used as frequently
This is
in
crazy.
the medical profession before
How is he
this.
talking
It was
so
used mostly
fast?
for diseases.
So long.
So
I don't
speaking to
even
a
know
lot
what
of the
he's saying right
doctors and hospital administrators, they would say they used actually a very low percentage of the N95 masks. What the president and the vice president were able to do with Congress was to get the waiver so that you could expand the pool, because a lot of the masks were used for the construction industry. So now there's a much bigger pool of masks in the country. There was a stockpile. They distributed that based on where they anticipated a lot of the need would go, but a lot of that still is stuck with the states, and it hasn't trickled down to the right places within the state. So I would just encourage you, when you have governors saying that the federal government hasn't given them what they need, I would just urge you to ask them, well, have you looked within your state to make sure that you haven't been able to find the resources? Unlike other countries, a lot of the medical system in America is a private. It's not a public government controlled. So you have to get the data from what's in their state, look at it in that way, and then make sure that they're being resourceful in a way to do that. And also ask them what their utilization percentage is, because if one governor is asking for more ventilators, and if the federal government sends them more than they need, the goal here is not to have ventilators sitting in a warehouse, where you have another state where you have people who need them. So what we're trying to do is
All
make
he's saying is
informed,
that
data-driven
each state needs
decisions
to
both on
move their
ventilators,
resources to
masks,
where
any
they are
other
needed most.
supply we can get to make sure it's going to the people who need them.
Jared, what triggered?
I wonder if you could weigh in on the reports of which I'm sure you're aware, where unnamed White House officials have described your role as being something of running a shadow task force. How do you describe your role? How do you describe the qualifications you bring to your role?
Yeah, I would just say very simply, look, the president asked the vice president to run the task force. The vice president asked me to assist. I've been serving really at the direction of the vice president. He's asked me to get involved in different projects.
This is what he
vice
always
president and I
says.
speak probably sometimes 5-10 times a day, but everything that I'm doing is at the direction of the vice president. If some people are talking to you, that means they're probably not informed as to what's going on, but I can assure you that I'm speaking with Dr. Birx, Dr. Fauci, the vice president, and the president multiple times a day to make sure that I'm accomplishing and focusing on the objectives that the vice president.
Dude, imagine if
deems a
Bannon
priority.
was still in the White
How
House.
about the
Or
ventilators
they
in
don't
the national
exist. Or these
stockpile?
sources don't exist. They're fake sources. Okay? A lot of fake sources out there, they don't exist. I read about it for a long time, I've been reading. A lot of them are fake sources, they don't exist. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Jared, what triggers sending a ventilator from the national stockpile to a state? In other words, how sick does somebody have to be to
Flynn
get
and
one of
Bannon.
these national ventilators?
Well, that's not the issue that's not the criteria. You have the states basically putting in their requests, and they're giving us their utilization percentages. So it's a very
System
simple formula. The
non-existent.
states should
Happy
know
to live in
how
Britain.
many ventilators
Well, you
they
think
have in their
Britain-
states.
are
By
they
the way,
doing it
some
better in
governors you
UK?
speak to are
Are they
senators,
dealing with it
and
better?
They don't know what's in their state. Some governors I'll speak to, and they'll know to the number how many ventilators they have in their state, because that's the first thing a good manager will do. What a lot of the voters are seeing now is that when you
Nowhere
elect
is
somebody
doing
to be
well.
a mayor or a governor or a president, you're
What
trying
about
to think
South Korea?
about who will be a competent manager during the time of crisis. This is a time of crisis, and you're seeing
Jared looks like
certain
the
people are
half-breed
better
unwanted
managers
son
than
of
others.
Dr.
So
Spock.
what I would say is that the way that the federal government's trying to allocate it is they're trying to make sure, A, you have your data, right? Don't
I think
ask
he
us
looks
for
sort of
things
like
when you know that
a
when you don't know
fetal
what you
Mark
have in your own
Zuckerberg.
state, just because
Like
you're
Mark
scared, you ask your
Zuckerberg,
medical-
who's, like,
medical
still
professionals,
developing in
and
the
they don't know.
world.
You have to take inventory of what you have in your own state, and then you have to be able to show that there's a real need. And so we pre-positioned a lot of things because most
Very
governors off the
smooth
bat
skin.
didn't know what they needed. But FEMA has a joint command with Admiral Polovchek, Admiral Giroir, and Pete Gaynor, where every couple hours when their requests come in, they evaluate the requests, they all vote on the requests, and then if there's
South Korea, if
something
you
that they
believe
want to
numbers
elevate
might
to
be
the task force,
sketchy.
they bring it to the vice president to make a recommendation.
Jared, if I may, you might ask Deborah. We're literally tracking hospitalization cases on a daily basis, interacting with governors and health systems, and that informs
West have all done
our
poorly.
supply
It's
chain
true. The
decisions.
West
Yeah,
have done
I
badly.
want to thank the health commissioners.
We
and
just got
all of them
totally
that have been sending
fucked.
hospital data in. I think it's really critical and important to all of us.
The president's hands
New
or
York City
face
has
look
been
like he came out of
providing
Christ.
information. New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island.
There's a good article in the New
certainly
York Times
Louisiana
about-
in these hotspots, and that allows us. We can see where they are with the rising number of cases, where they are in their curve, what can be predicted, and really ensuring that people get what they need as they need it. And so I think many of
This
the
was a pretty good
governors
one.
now and the health commissioners have been, I had to use 20, I'm intubating 20 people
Basically, the
a
government
day
worked
now.
with
I have
local
enough for the
pharmacists
next
to
3
distribute these
days.
masks
That
to everybody.
doubles. We're seeing our hospitalization rates stabilizing, but we still think there will be this many more in the next days. That's the information that they then translate into providing
America
the
needs to do the
ventilators. So
same.
when
The
you
U.S.
see
government,
ventilator
same we told
numbers
you,
going
should
out,
immediately enter
they're
into
going
large-scale
out in
contracts to produce
150s
masks.
and 200s, because I think early on, we sent a big bolus out, and then not all of them, even today, have been fully utilized. And so we want to make sure every state,
You're saying
every hotspot.
just purely
can be
because they had to
reassured
deal with,
that ventilators are there for them.
they had to
as
deal
they
with
move
SARS?
through the curve. And I think
That's
to
why they're
date,
better?
we've been able to do that. And I think that's what's important to me, is that
Maybe.
people have what they need when they need it. And to
So
date,
we'll just
people
just
who
be
have
able to
needed
adapt and
ventilators
then
have been able to get on
now that
ventilators.
we've
And I
done-
think that's
dealt
our
with this,
goal with
we're gonna be
governors
as good as them
and with
the
the
next time
mayors
around.
to make sure that continues to happen. But that means all of us have to work together. And I think that's what's been really important over the last few weeks, is people are not making generic requests anymore. They're making data-driven requests because they know precisely what's happening in their hospitals.
Dr. Burks, when you were up here a little bit ago, you talked about the curve and what you're seeing, and you're concerned that people are not abiding by the social distancing guidelines. And you seemed in your voice to be quite concerned about that. Has the curve changed enough at this point where that 100,000 to 240,000 people likely to die, has that shifted upwards at all?
No, it's just when I look at so we're in week
Here's the curve.
2.2 in our guidelines. And I guess what I expected when the president put out guidelines that said, don't go to bars, don't be in groups more than 10 people. When we said that now over 16 days ago, that was serious.
We're not curving.
And then you could see what happened subsequently.
At all.
And you can see the number of individuals who have been infected since then. Because the people we're seeing infected today and in hospitals today were infected after the guidelines went out.
Can we drink a beer?
So that's what we're worried about. And we're worried about that we're
you
still
want me to drink a beer?
And
I'll
that's
drink a
why
beer.
the president extended it for 30 days. But we have to get out of this. We have to start seeing this.
But Deborah, aren't you referring to just a few states? Because many of those states are dead flat. I mean, so
Yes,
it's
there
hard
are
to get-
states
it's hard
that
to
are
be-
dead
yeah.
flat. But you know, what changes the curve is a new Detroit, a new Chicago, a new New Orleans, a new Colorado. Those change the curve.
Is there any-
Because it all of a sudden spikes with the number of new cases. Because you have a certain projection of new cases, and then
Hate when people
a whole
straw
other
man.
city comes on
Turn
top.
over their economy like they just care
Where
about money.
they're in their logarithmic phase. So those ones that I talked about that
He is
had
answering a lot of
test
questions.
results greater than 13% positive, all of those states or all of those counties are in logarithmic phase. That means
China's
there are a
not
lot of
telling. That's what they
counties
say.
going
They
on.
say China's not
And
telling
we
the
are
truth.
really,
I don't know.
We're excited about those counties that have been testing and still finding quite flat. And hopefully, maybe Sunday or so, or sometime this weekend,
Looting,
we can
killing,
go through
suicides
all
are
the
gonna
states
happen.
and the curves again, so you can see where
Yeah,
the California
I don't know.
and Washington are still steady. But we're watching very carefully.
Hopefully it doesn't get
because
that bad. I
we
mean,
see that you can go from
hopefully
this
things just get
to
better.
this very quickly. And this should not be happening any longer
Kinda
in
nipped
new
it in the bud.
places if people are doing the social distancing.
Society's
washing their
fragile?
hands,
I don't think that's
not
I don't think
getting
that's
together
gonna
in
break
large
down that
groups
much.
More than 10.
I don't think. I think it's going to take a lot for things to break down.
I look at the graphs all the time.
Yes.
And you have many
Yes.
flatliners. I call them flatliners. I'm amazed at them. And you have a couple that are up. It's hard to blame the flatliners for not doing a good job.
No, I don't want to say that. No, don't. No. Thank you, sir. I don't want, in fact, I want to praise the states and I think I want to be able to call them out and show you their graphs so you can see they've had steady small cases. They're testing and they're doing a lot of testing and their percent of test positives are under 5%. I mean, we have a whole group of states who are testing and their positivity rate is under 5%. We know what it looks like on the logarithmic curve. You're in the 13%, then 15%.
It's not about
then
who's doing good or
26%,
not. I mean, it's
and
not like a
35%.
competition.
That's what we're trying to prevent.
These states that
And
are
it's
doing
the
well is
metro
because there's nobody who
areas
lives there.
that are absolutely crucial in this. And so if you're in a metro area or you're in a small city, please make sure all of your friends and family are following the guidelines. That's the best thing we
Yeah,
can do.
because I saw those pens going 5 minutes
Virus
ago.
is
It
now
was
part of the
so
weather,
bad, it was
basically.
really-
Right.
And the fact is.
It is.
Yes.
It's going to be like that for a while. It's going to be like how bad's
We
the
have many
virus?
places that are really doing great, and I think that's what Deborah meant. She didn't mean all of them.
Use this site. Scroll down to the
So when you write your story
spreadsheets.
tomorrow, maybe you'll write it
What's this?
correctly. She was talking about one state, and another state is, having a hard time. And they're closely associated. And by the way, the people are doing a very good job, including the people that live there.
Okay, I see it.
But when
Yeah, that's a
Deborah
good
was
one.
talking about Italy, she was talking about the one, and then the other was lower. And then you have mostly states that have been unbelievable. So she wasn't talking about the average of everything. She was talking about an individual state, which is, I think, still better than Italy. Italy's having a hard time. By the way, Spain is having a hard time. France is having a hard time. But our states, generally speaking, it's like lots of different countries all over. We have many of those countries are doing a phenomenal
5,000?
job. They're
We have
really
5,000 deaths already?
And I think that's what you meant.
And that the curve has not even started.
I don't want to speak for, but I thought that's what I understood she meant. Yeah, please.
About that though, because coronavirus is present in all 50 states. You said before that when you implored mayors and governors to be serious about this, you said once it shows up, mitigation
We're actually doing
efforts
okay.
are too late.
Only 24
So
deaths.
how do you then square that with this notion that some states are doing well? I mean, the virus doesn't abide by
Because some
state
states, they
laws.
stay in better, they're not touching, they're not whatever it is, they're not going out, they're not in groups. And some states are not probably as good, or for whatever reason, or they also live a lot closer. You know, New York is very dense.
Yeah, it's not about.
You know, California's pretty dense too, and they've got a very good record going so far. We hope it doesn't spike up, but it's very flat.
Yeah.
We have
He's
states
pitting
that are doing
states against each
incredibly
other
well.
now.
I mean, when I looked
How
at
does
some
that
of
help
them, I
anything?
looked at some states that I would have thought maybe wouldn't have done as well, and they're really flatlined.
Adam
Hope they
Schlesinger, I
stay
do.
that way.
I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of Fountains of Wayne.
Sorry, Jim.
Sir, isn't that the point, that you want those states to stay flatlined?
I want them. Yeah,
I mean, it
that's what I'm
seems like
saying.
you're-
No. But when Deborah mentioned about
It's the blame
Italy
game now. Yes.
and our country, she wasn't referring to our country. She was referring to one state.
She's encouraging people to do a better job of following these social distancing measures. That's what I'm understanding.
Okay, so my understanding, I'm going to let her say it, but I think that everybody would have to be thrilled with the way most states are doing. Thrilled. The flatline states that have almost no bump. I mean, I would think. Now, then you have others where, for whatever reason,
Oh,
they're
my
higher.
God.
That's different. But you can't condemn people living in a flatliner with people living in something where there's the big bump or the bigger bump, or more akin to Italy, where they have some very unique problems. In all fairness to Italy, they have some very unique problems. But if you'd like to come up and
So how many flatline do we have, and
A lot
how
of
many
them.
do we have? How many? How many do
So
we have?
She's
why
like,
don't I bring you the whole deck again, and we'll divide out the states so you can see them, because you really have to see each state separately. That's why I started with, there are states where you've heard me talk about how concerned I was. These are states that before the guidelines went out, or
on the one
right
hand,
after the guidelines
I think it
went
does
out.
help
I mean,
to
you
probably
can
look
at it. It's on the
state to
website
state
if you
more.
go to the healthdata.org about when
does sorta-
governors made clarity about closing their states. It's for as the social distancing, the washing of the hands, the bars, the doing takeout. And you can line that up with the presidential guidelines. And not all states, when the presidential guidelines came out, immediately followed the presidential guidelines. Not all states did. There are
We'd be
states
bumping.
that also may have gotten many more seeds from outside communities.
I'm trying to
That
understand
certainly
what's
is one of
even
the
going
issues
on
that New
here.
York and New Jersey, Connecticut and Rhode Island are facing. The virus came in from multiple places into those states. It was undetected early on, and they have a very logarithmic curve. What I'm saying is even one of those curves in one county, in one city, is one curve too many. So I am passionate about everyone following the guidelines because of the outlier curves. Maybe that was a better way of putting it. The outlier curves in specific counties is to make sure that doesn't happen anywhere else.
So would you feel better if every state did a stay-at-home order? Would you
I
feel
think
better?
most of the states have done that. I think one death from this is one death too many. I mean, I come out of epidemics and pandemics. We know what to do. I know we don't have a vaccine, and I know we don't have a therapeutic, but we know what can be done, and others are doing it. And most of
Alaska's
the people
doing
in the
well.
United
Well,
States
yeah,
are
there's
doing
nobody
it.
there.
It's our communities. It's every American that has to make these changes. And I know they're really hard. And I know it's hard to remember. I mean, I have to say to myself every day, because I'm around very important people, to never touch anything. And I'm just paranoid now about touching things. I'm sure you all are too. I mean, we've gotten to the place where we don't go to your places on Pebble Beach. We go to the one that's open aired because, I mean, you're trying to protect your reporters. I mean, I understand that. We're all trying to protect each other, and we all have to adapt to this new reality that we're in right now. And I believe everybody is trying really hard, and I'm just asking them to try really, really hard for these next 28 days because they will make a tremendous difference. We see that evidence. And so it's like having a vaccine or a therapeutic because we know what works and we're asking everybody to apply what works. And I know it takes amazing attention to detail because, you know, the minute you forget or do something, you're like, oh my gosh, I should have never done that.
It seems to be more emotional
and that's
than
the
before,
level of
right.
attention it takes.
Well, she's trying to counteract.
So I just want to say,
Trump's.
many states have started low.
I think
and
she's just
slow,
trying to counteract what
and
Trump is doing.
They stayed at a good level. Some really stayed at a great level. Some, Louisiana is an example. It was low and slow,
You think
and
Trump
they were
will be
looking great.
reelected?
Was
I don't
watching
know.
it,
I have no
'cause,
idea. I try
it's
not to
kind
make
of a place people
projections. Predictions.
With
I'm
Mardi Gras,
terrible at
which
predicting.
sort of is an interesting point.
I didn't think he was gonna
Because
get
after
elected the
Mardi
first
Gras,
time.
It was low, and then all of a sudden it went up very rapidly, and now it's one of our true hotspots, right? Certain areas of Michigan, Detroit, looked like it was doing pretty good, and then all of a sudden it went up. So you have that too. But I'll tell you what, we have states that have been really incredible in the fact that they have kept so low. They have not. You haven't seen the bump, and I hope you don't. I hope you don't. And you have a couple that, for a lot of different reasons, and that's not to blame anybody, but they are at a higher level. But very few. I think, Deborah, I mean, I may say, I think most people have actually followed the presidential, you can call them whatever you want. I would never use the word dictates, because if I used that word, I would be in such trouble. In fact, you'll put me in trouble just that I even mentioned the thought of it, okay? But we make a recommendation, and I think they've done a good job.
Oh
maybe
my
they started
God.
a little later, but maybe they're also
He's
more
directly
difficult
contradicting what
But
she said.
We've done, I think, on average, really phenomenally as a country. I think we've done phenomenally.
This is like-
because when you looked at that graph the other day, I don't know if you saw it. I assume you saw it. Everybody in the world saw it. But you look at all those lines on the bottom,
a
one
stand-up
color after
act.
another, all different, representing different states. It's all crowded at the bottom. And then you had two that were up, but you had, I don't know, almost every one of them was down low, very low. So there were a lot of people listening. And I just did want to clear, because I don't need headlines tomorrow, neither does the country. Because I don't want this country working so hard and then have press that is, in this case, maybe misinterpret something. Because I might have, when I heard it, I was surprised at first too, but I understood what Deborah meant. But I think it's very important, because I think it's very important for you to be accurate. One other thing, just a quick thing. So what I found is.
He's mad
when
that she
Governors
said
call
that
me,
people weren't doing well.
I think in every case, they've always been so nice. So nice. And I've seen them and heard them say,
Enthusiasm theme.
thank you very much. You have done a great job, a fantastic job in one case. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Then I'll see the governor, usually of the opposite party, in almost all cases, except maybe one. But in almost all cases, they're very generous, they're very nice, they thank me, everything's great, we're doing a great job. And then I'll see them on television and just like,
I wonder if we won't see Deborah
and I
Bricks
realize
there,
there are some people, because
next
of
time.
politics,
What do you think?
that if they say, we want 1,000 ventilators, and I'll say, no, Jim, I want to give you 5,000
She's like the only
ventilators.
one who's pointed
They'll
out
say,
that,
"Thank
like,
you, you are
hey,
the greatest
we're not
president
really
that's
even
ever
on
lived."
track.
And then I'll see them quoted in a paper or
She'll
see
be
them on a show.
mysteriously missing
And
at the
they'll
next
say,
one.
The president didn't come through
She
for
was
me.
like,
I'm very
you
disappointed.
could
in the
basically
president."
see the
And we have
fucking,
a lot
like,
of that. They're very happy when they talk to me. Then I see
Kane
them. But there are
coming
some
around.
people, if they asked for
The hook.
500 of something, and if I gave them 5,000, they will say,
She
they'll
will
say,
be
"How's the
replaced by
president doing?"
Jared.
Well, we don't like the job. To my face, they're very nice. But then sometimes, I guess they assume I don't watch them or something, but I watch very closely. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, one especially vulnerable population is the prison population, and that's especially with Jared here. I wondered if you could address what the federal government is doing to protect
Well, it's
inmates.
vulnerable in that it's close together, really. I can't tell you about age, but a lot of young people in prison. Some people, some states, I have not done that at all, but some states are letting people out of prison. Some people are getting out that are very serious criminals in some states, and I don't like that. I don't like it. But it's a city or state thing in certain cases, as you know. I think
I like
maybe,
it. Release them all.
Philadelphia comes to mind.
That's what I say.
So we'll see. Have to see what's going on, and we don't like it. The people don't like it, and we're looking in to see if I have the right.
Some
to
artist
stop
was
it in some
released
cases.
today. Who
Okay.
was it?
President,
Takashi?
6 million Americans filed for unemployment
Yeah.
last
Wow,
week.
he got
We haven't
out.
heard you
I
talk
don't-
a lot
what,
today
it was
about
because of
what they're
coronavirus?
going through.
Damn.
So,
Oh, I think it's. I think
what's
they're
your
going
message
through
to
it.
them?
Lucky for him.
I think it's terrible. So look, 4 weeks ago, we had the greatest economy in the history of the world, greatest in the world, greatest in the history of the world. We had the most jobs ever in the history of the United States, almost 160 million jobs, right? And then one day, I get a call
Release them in
from
Adrian's. I'm fine.
Deborah, who's
They
fantastic,
can come here. They can stay with
and
me.
from Dr. Fauci, and he said,
Yeah, we got 32 viewers. We're doing good. Thanks for hanging out,
I
guys.
said, what's the problem?
New album
They
coming out
said-
soon, right?
We may have to close it up. I said, close what up? They said, close up the country.
Because that was Takashi.
I said, what's that all about?
6ix9ine
we
got out.
discussed today, and probably not since
You guys like 6ix9ine?
1917
I actually like him. I mean,
came to
he
that
seems like kind of a
conclusion,
bad
and she
person,
is
but
a fantastic person, a brilliant person, and this is what.
am
she
I
knows.
allowed?
I said, has it ever been?
Am I allowed to
this
stream
bad?
this? Probably.
And I think
Why
I
not?
can represent that you said no, and part of it is
'Cause
the
it's Fox?
contagion. It's so contagious. It's like
I mean, this is just.
if you
I
sneeze,
could go to the
probably
White
get it.
House.
Who ever heard of a thing like that? Okay, and this very talented reporter is bailing out. Okay, he's out of here. I don't blame you, but it's a very contagious thing, and probably the likes of which we've never
Sorry,
seen in
sorry.
terms of that. But 1917, so that's over 100 years ago. But that was, it's been written about many, many times. That was a horrible. Whether it was 75 or 100 million people, I've heard from 50 to 75. I've heard 75 to 100, but it was tens of millions of people. Now we have the advantage of communication. This could have been just as bad. I mean, here we can read on the internet, we can see what to do, we can have these meetings, they can watch on television, which they do. A lot of people are watching. A lot of people are watching. And they say, gee, social distancing. But in 1917, they didn't have that option. They didn't know what to do. They just noticed people were dying all over the place. Think of it, 75 to 100 million people died. A lot of people in this country died. To me, it's a great question. How
sucks,
come
large behind.
More
Sorry.
people didn't die in this country, and they say it actually started in this country and went to Europe. I mean, we lost a lot of people, but relatively, we lost very few compared to Europe. So this is a terrible thing that happened, and what's happening now with people in jobs. So think of the position.
I think
I'm
this
in.
was one of the messiest
We
yet.
have built all
I don't think
together.
it's- I
Everybody,
don't think it's
not
been
me,
good.
Everybody, the greatest economy in history, and all of a sudden, people come in that we respect or we know. And here's the thing: they were right. Everybody questioned it for a while. Not
Can't pay
everybody,
rent.
but a good
Damn,
portion questioned it. They said, "Let's keep it open. Let's ride it." If we did that, you saw the other graph, and whether it's true or almost true or maybe not true enough, the number was 2.2 million people would have died. 2.2 million people would have died in a short period of time. In fact, the graph could have been even shorter. I always notice that horrible one where it goes high, it actually comes
He's just
down
going
a little
off
bit
now.
faster.
He's
It might
he's
have been
lost
over
it.
faster, and you would have lost 2.2 million people. So they come in and they say, we have to close up the country. And I say, you know what that does to the fabric of this country? To people that had great jobs, great family, no problems with money, their 401k, everything is perfect. Then all of a sudden they go from that to having no job in one day. They never even thought of it. And then you see 6 million
He's
people
talking to you, large
unemployed,
behind.
Unemployment numbers get released, and you see
Got
6
anything to say?
million people. And it's an artificial closing. It's not like we have a massive recession or worse. It's artificial because we turned it off. Think of what we're doing. We're saying, don't go to work and we'll pay you. Everything's the opposite. It was always go to work and make a lot of money and do well, and the American dream. Because of a hidden enemy, we're saying, don't go to work and we're going to pay you. Look at the money, $2 trillion. And we will probably do more. I think
said he's gonna
infrastructure
pay
would be a
you.
fantastic thing to do. You want to get the restaurants back, you give deductibility. You understand what that is? You give deductibility for businesses where they go and they use the restaurants. The restaurants will be bigger and better than they were before. You know, people don't know. A lot of restaurants closed when they ended deductibility. And then they started doing well, but they had fewer restaurants. But the boom of the restaurants is when they had deductibility, where corporations could use them. So, and entertainment. That was a great thing. But they closed it, and then they closed it again, and it wasn't the same. But you want to get them back, you do that. But infrastructure, we borrow our money now at zero. You know, if we were paying 5%, 4%, 3%, it's a different ballgame. We're borrowing. We can borrow long-term for zero, literally zero. You know that, because we're considered the safe investment all over the world. They want money in the United States. That's where they want the money. So I know better than anybody. I know what they're going through, and it's horrible. But you know what I want to do? I want to be able to get them back fast. When this is over, it's going to be a day we're going to celebrate, because everyone's going to go to work, and I think we're going to have boom times. I think it's going to be great. And we've learned a lot. We've learned about borders. We've learned about reliance on other countries. We've learned so much that I think we really have a chance to be bigger and better and stronger. And I think it's going to come back very quickly. But first, we have to defeat this enemy. So we will see you tomorrow. Thank you very much. Thank you.
President, Jared, would you think somebody be able to follow up on what you're looking into for that?
Yeah, that was definitely the weirdest one, I think. All over the place. You had Navarro out here talking about how this shows that we need to close up our borders, we need to boost, American industry. You had Trump and BRICS fighting in the middle of it. You had Jared Kushner just being like a weird robot talking at like 1,000,000 miles an hour. That was definitely the weirdest one. That was like, I feel like they had that one where they it seemed like everything was on the rails, everything was being taken seriously, all the data was there, and then this one was just like, poof, everybody's trying to get in on it. No Fauci. Yeah, where's Fauci, huh? Closing borders does nothing at this point. Yeah, I mean, this was the one where I think they basically Trump had the one where he was like really rational, really all about the numbers, and this was the one where I feel like he's trying to get it back on his agenda. Everything about, we need borders, we need to keep people from coming, it's all the state's fault, the market is great. This was like Twin Peaks, yeah. Oh my god. Let's see what people have to say on Twitter. It's interesting, like watching it and then seeing like what, because usually when I'm following this, I just am reading Twitter, but I wasn't on Twitter, so it's hard to tell if my take is being shared. But that one made me think that it's gonna get worse. That one made me kind of nervous, because BRICS seems to be like trying to signal to people, by the way, this isn't going the way that we want it to. Like, maybe we need to take this more seriously. Maybe we need to BRICS. I mean, yeah, I always say BRICS. BRICS. She was like, look at the numbers, look at the curve. It's not going the way we want to. And Trump is just like, as soon as a tiny hint of that, he just slams it down, bulldozes it. BRICS was like trying. She seemed like a captive person, being like trying to reach out to the real world, and Trump's not having any of it. It's 100% going to get better. However, the next 2 weeks, you're going to have 1 million confirmed infected and 50,000 deaths. Of course, it's going to go away, right? Like Trump always says, it's going to go away. He wasn't lying about it, but you know, we're not, it's going to go away, but we're not doing what needs to be done. That's what I think. This is what I'm saying. Midway through public discussion of pandemic, obsesses over whether people praise him properly. It's clearly mentally ill with NPD. What's NPD? You know, like, yeah, leading from behind. States should have built their. This is just like an insane argument, too, right? Like,
building their stockpile. We have almost 10,000 in our stockpile, and we've been building it, and we've been supplying it.
Multiple
But the
personality
states
disorder.
should be building. We're a backup. We're not an ordering clerk. We're a backup. And we've done an unbelievable job. Like, for instance, who ever heard of a governor calling up, sir, can you build us a hospital of 2,500 rooms? And we built it. Can you build us 4 medical?
Federalism. Sure, federalism is a thing, but, you know, the government should be coordinating the response to a mass pandemic taking over everything. National supply is almost empty, right? We have like a week. Masks have an expiration date. These pandemics are pretty rare. It's not about like, I don't think the stockpile is necessarily the issue. To me, the issue is the fact that we couldn't get the testing in place. We couldn't get the surveillance in place, and we couldn't basically track it and get an accurate picture of how things were developing. And I think that, you know, we could have. It does seem like we could have prevented it from getting to the point where we needed to, draw down the entire stockpile, right? Like, if we had been able to get it at the source at the beginning, we wouldn't be in the situation where all the states are now scrambling to get the supplies they need, because we wouldn't have the insane number of cases that we're about to have. We wouldn't have had the explosion. You know, we could have been South Korea, we could have been Taiwan, and not worse than Italy. We're worse than Italy. We're going to be worse. We're going to be the worst country. Should have taken it very seriously at the start. We're already the worst. Well, we have the most cases, but can somebody put in that, what is it, world metrics? We have the most cases. I don't know if we have it. What's that sound? What's LR mean? I don't know if we have it like per capita though. Are we the worst per capita? Like numbers wise. Wow. You hear that outside? The knife guy. I think the knife sharpener's out there. Is the knife sharpener still at work? I don't know. Oh, knife sharpener. What? Have you ever? If you live in a city, there's a thing where knife sharpeners will drive down the street in like a mobile knife sharpening van, and they'll ding 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 ding. You never heard of that? And then you bring out their knives to them, and they'll sharpen it. It's a thing. Close to kitchen. You haven't opened the curtain? I don't know. I just wanted to see what's out there. We have ice cream van, no knife sharpening van. Anyway, Tekashi's out. That's surprising. How much? This song's great. I don't know, somebody said he's out. How long was he supposed to be in there? He was scheduled to get out early on July 31st, so it's not even that early.
We just got this video.
Wow.
Just got this video of a rapper and this massive fight at LAX.
At LAX, spilled out into the street at LAX. 7 or 8 guys. The rapper's name is 6ix9ine.
He wasn't arrested for that though. Yikes.
Everybody want to make a name for themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Tekashi 6ix9ine and his manager. This was a...
Why did he go to jail? I don't know. Does anyone know? Assault? It was something over some other... That was old, yeah. I don't know why he went to jail exactly. Drug bust? Released in August. So he got 4 months out, huh? He has asthma, so that's why he was able to get out, because he had asthma. Saw Ice-T's tweet. Something like, if someone owes you money, then go get it. They're home right now. That's a good one. Ice-T is very good on Twitter. Ice-T is one of the best Twitter. He must be loving this though, because he's a big gamer too. Ice-T's a huge gamer, yeah. He just finished Doom Eternal. See? He tweets a lot about games. Let's see if he's... Yeah, see, look. I couldn't do that if I wanted to, lol. Clear the gamer stuff. Doom Eternal finally made it to the end of the last blast bottle. Effing Marauder popped up. I just shut the effing game off. I want him to stream. I've always thought that Ice-T should be streaming, right? If I was ever a famous streamer, I would definitely try to get Ice-T to like, look. It'll make you crazy though, lol. Gamer stuff. He tweets every game thing. He tweets gamer stuff.
Motherfucker, about to go down. Okay, I made it to this big motherfucker finally. Let's go, you bitch ass motherfucker.
generation of celebrities wasn't ready for streaming, right? I'm sure Chanel has learned every bad word on earth from my gamer rage moments. Yeah, here's a good one. If somebody owes you money, put on your mask and pop up to their crib right now. They're home. Dude, he's good. Yo. He has a big screen. It's the only time I swear around my kids when I'm gaming. I swear when I'm gaming for sure. Okay. Well, that was a very entertaining conference. I mean, it was a little scary. Let's see what. One thing that's interesting to do. One interesting thing to do is look after watching. We watched the whole conference to see what the like New York Times story is from it, right? Like, what did the New York Times write about this? The conference that we just watched.
It's fucking oh wait, I forgot you can't say that shit. We just gonna start with everything else that start with a T then. It's fucking Trojan.
So this says this one was the main headline they have is that about the masks. White House briefing Thursday evening. President Trump said his administration was, quote, coming out with regulations on mask wearing, but stressed that the guidance would be entirely voluntary. If people want to wear them, they can, he said. I don't even remember that. Do you guys remember that? This is why I can't cover the press conferences, because I don't pay attention that much. I pay attention to weird shit. Like, you know, to me the main thing was the weird moment between Birx and Trump. Deborah Birx emphasized that social distancing, not masks, was still the most important step. She pleaded with Americans on Thursday to follow the federal social distance guidelines to a T. You hear this, Moises? Moises is part of the problem, wanting to go fucking IRL stream right now. Don't do it. Stay inside. You are putting the United States on the steep trajectory that it remains on toward a high number of cases and deaths. Oh yeah, see, they did cover this part. Under prodding by Mr. Trump, Dr. Birx noted that some communities in the United States are doing a better job. Oh yeah, so Trump also, they picked up on Trump denouncing the new House Oversight Committee as a witch hunt. President Trump lashed out at Democrats in Congress on Thursday for announcing the start of oversight investigations. He knows what's going on. So those are two stories that they picked up: that the masks and Trump lashing out on the House Oversight Committee. Let's see what CNN picked up. Yeah, this says Trump says new recommendations on face masks are coming. Repeated assertion that fabric coverings like scarves would be preferential. It's weird that he keeps saying that. Why does he keep saying that? Trump did not offer timing on the new recommendations. Alright. Challenge me to go buy Cedar Sinai. Me? Isn't that... Is there Cedar Sinai in... Oh. You will donate $100 if it's packed. Wait, what? What do you mean, though? There aren't that many cases yet, you know? Oh, you're the conspiracy guy, huh? What do you think about the guy? Cedar Sinai. These places are empty. You know why. Uh-oh. How many are even in LA right now? Look, there's 4,045, 78 deaths. How many are in the... Look, over the entire time, there's been 879 hospitalizations, and that's since the beginning. So, oh, did that just go up? No, I thought it went up. If so, there's been 879. Millions are not dying. Nobody's saying that. Who's saying millions are dying? Look at all this data. What do you think about the guy who drove... Do you guys hear about the guy who drove the... You think millions are dying or crazy? I'm not thinking that millions are dying. I think that 78 people died in LA. This isn't... I don't think this is at the point in LA that it's going to be overflowing hospitals. But in New York, it definitely is. Have you seen... LA is just a month behind, maybe. Look at New York. I think people have looked at New York. Like, what hospital? I think that there are some pretty harrowing pictures and videos from inside hospitals in New York. Look, here's a video. New video from inside Mount Sinai. So it's not Cedar Sinai, but it's Mount Sinai. Oh, it's not loading. Mount Cyanide. Imagine going to a hospital called Mount Cyanide. Check this out.
Turning now to the coronavirus pandemic, New York City remains the epicenter of the virus in the United States, and Governor Cuomo says the worst is yet to come. Still waiting for that apex. And this morning we are getting an inside look at Mount Sinai Hospital in Queens. That hospital now pushed to the brink with an influx of patients. Here are the latest numbers in New York City. More than 45,000 people infected with the virus, and nearly 1,400 have died. Eyewitness News reporter Derek Waller joins us live from home with the overnight developments. Derek.
And Charlene, you saw that video from inside Mount Sinai, Queens, showing just how dire this situation has gotten at so many hospitals in our area. Take another look at that video for yourself.
You can see all the rooms are filled. Usually these halls are very neat and empty. And now you can see there's patients everywhere because of this.
The hospital's ER overflowing with patients, and Governor Cuomo says this is just the beginning. Some of his models show the peak of this crisis not hitting for several more weeks.
What we're looking at now is the apex, top of the curve, roughly at the end of April, which means another month of this. Our course, for planning purposes, is a moderate model, because in truth, the higher models, we don't even have a chance at meeting that capacity anyway.
And now there are plans to build another makeshift hospital at the Brooklyn Cruise Terminal. That's where 750 beds are planned to be ready by mid-April. But before then, the city has more immediate needs. Mayor Bill de Blasio announcing in a press conference yesterday that they are still looking to find millions more masks, those N95 masks and surgical masks, by next week. Also looking for thousands of more gowns as well.
So what do you think about that video? That's inside a hospital. Looked real to me. Oh, the reporter. All the staff were not wearing N95. Sometimes they put them. Sometimes they put the masks over.
The Chinese government really needs to do a better job of...
Sometimes they put masks, the surgical mask over the N95 in KFC. I could go for KFC.
Hiding information if they're going to keep changing their story and blaming the coronavirus on other countries like Italy or the USA or Japan or whatever. While I'm not a fan of theories or unproven scenarios, it's been impossible to avoid them in the outbreak of the coronavirus, simply due to the fact that it was completely covered up in the beginning stages in China. This isn't really going to be a theory, it's just public information I found. When it broke, China was the first to jump onto the local Wuhan and Hubei government and villainize them until they had their perfect scapegoat. This was, of course, preceded with the fact that we now know it wasn't just a local issue, it was in fact the way that the Chinese government was structured that led the top-down leadership to stifle and prevent the release of any relevant information for months, which could have prevented this global pandemic. First and foremost, this is the Communist Party of China's fault. And the fact that there are people gasping for breath in their deathbed in your town is solely on the consciences of the CCP and the people who entrusted them to enter our global systems like the WHO. The thing is, after living in China for 10 years and speaking fluent Chinese, you get to know a society pretty well. And let me tell you this, if you're applauding or admiring the political leadership of China, you're all deluded beyond belief. China doesn't operate like your country. The Chinese government is a face and greed-driven government that relies on lies and bullying to maintain leadership. It's broken and fragile, so it doesn't surprise me that when I was doing my research in my last video, it wasn't hard to follow a paper trail left by the CCP themselves. In my last video, I found it very suspicious that the official Wuhan Virology Lab had a job opening from November 18th of 2019, asking for scientists to come research the relationship between the coronavirus and bats, specifically why they carry the virus, yet are long-lived. It's no secret that longevity, as well as other ailments, are well studied in China, as can be seen by the ridiculous amounts of traditional Chinese medicines that supposably treat them.
What's he saying? That they created
Bear bile
the
injections?
virus?
Does state-endorsed coronavirus cure anyone? Anyway, while reading this job posting, I failed to
you can't handle 2?
Notice until the next day
You're not
that another job posting followed the previous post, and this is where it got big. So when I examined the job posting, I noticed that there was actually a follow-up job posting on December 24th of 2019. Remember, this is before any news broke, which basically says, we've discovered a new and terrible virus and would like to recruit people to come deal with it. I found this interesting because, like I said, the news didn't come out about coronavirus until ages after that. So I decided to dig a little bit more into the staff. After all, they would have published articles being scientists. Turns out, this woman, Shi Jiangli, she was the lead researcher of the lab, and she was famous for bat studies. They called her Batwoman in some circles. She even received an award for proving bats are natural reservoirs of SARS-like coronaviruses. In November 2017, all the way through 2018, she had already written 3 articles about how bats can transmit coronaviruses to humans. This is all public knowledge. She and her team went south to Yunnan province, all the way, deep south of China. It's very beautiful there. And she found out that SARS-like viruses originally came from bats, in fact. In 2017, from data taken from one of her studies, in rural Yunnan province, she took blood samples from 218 villagers. After testing it, it showed that SARS-like viruses found in bats from nearby caves have a high potential to affect people. She predicted that humans coming into contact with bats would have a high chance of becoming infected. After blood testing the 218 villagers, she found that 6 people in Yunnan were found to be infected. She returned to Wuhan to the lab to continue studying SARS-like coronaviruses from bats for a long period of time, and this is why you can see the November 18th, 2019 job posting asking for more researchers to join the project. During this time, we don't know much, but the December 24th posting acknowledges that they've made a big discovery in human transmissibility, and they need more help to deal with it. So that's where it got kind of spooky. During my research, a name kept popping up. Huang Yanling. Huang Yanling was a researcher in the lab working on the virology of bats with Shi Jiangli, and she's missing. Most people believe her to be patient zero, and most people believe she's dead. Shi Zhengli, the head lab leader, told the government that she swears on her life that she isn't dead, nor was she infected. However, all of her info on the Wuhan lab website, where I found the job posting, it's gone. So if you look here, if you go to the actual virology website, you can see all the people that were working here or were students. They all have their bios still up, whether or not they moved on from the Wuhan lab. But if you can see,
I think this guy's cracking
Huang
the code
Yanling's
right here.
profile
This
is
guy?
completely vanished. Her picture is gone, and now her bio is gone as well. But if you go to the other students, all their bios remain intact. No one has seen her, and the government has posted a notice instead of any information about her on the lab website stating that there were rumors of her disappearance, but she's alive and well, without giving an ounce of proof, of course. Everyone on the Chinese internet is searching for her, but most believe that her body was quickly cremated, and the people working in the crematorium were perhaps infected,
Definitely a
as they
good
were not
story.
given any
Somebody should
information
find
about
her.
the virus. It was a secret after all. The
I'm
thing
not
is,
going to.
this has sparked a massive discussion on the Chinese internet, and most of the articles get scrubbed pretty quickly, but I found a lot of good points. Now, the thing is, the CCP put up this kind of notice saying that she's totally alive and everything's okay, and don't believe these rumors, but if you've been in China, you know how much the CCP actually hates rumors. And if Huang Yan...
Is this actually on there? Wuhan Institute of Virology? Is that right? Chen writing a hit piece on. I'll get to the bottom of it. No, if I spoke Chinese, I would do it, but it's too much. If it's I'm not even talking about it. I think they took off. They must have taken off the notification.
is truly alive, like the CCP actually hates rumors. And if Huang
This is a
much the
different-
CCP actually
That's a different website, though.
hates rumors. And if Huang Yanling is truly alive, like they claim, why is her photo and bio removed? The other associates and graduates remain on the website, even after moving to other positions at different labs or different universities. The first thing that the government would do, the CCP that I know at least, the first thing they would do to quash this rumor is to make her have a public appearance. Then people would stop talking about it. Yet people are still looking for her and can't find her. And I'm not talking about normal netizens, I'm talking about PhDs, I'm talking about scientists, I'm talking about professors. And this is where it kind of started to come together. On February 6, 2020, Xiao Guotao, he was a professor, he posted a thesis about details that he knew about, but he wasn't supposed to talk about. I see some kind of links to people like Li Wenliang who wanted to say something, but they couldn't. But Xiao Guotao, the professor, he posted the information anyway. He knew researchers at the lab that were infected, and they had already begun self-quarantine after they showed symptoms of being infected. And the majority of the researchers at the lab were already suspicious that this virus that they were coming down with was from bats. The professor directly pointed out that the main source of the virus is from the Wuhan lab, which is only 300, or actually 280 meters to be exact, from the Huanan seafood market, where it was originally claimed to have originated. He also claims that it is not a natural infection, so not something that people would have just come across in nature. He also gives a clear timeline and has information that researchers were splashed with urine and blood samples from all the bats that were collected. Not only that, he also knew exactly how many bats were collected in the lab. Now, pairing the researcher Huang Yanling's disappearance with the fact that people working in the lab claim to have been splashed with coronavirus-containing vials, and her online presence has been scrubbed from existence, all happening in a lab 280 meters away from the Huanan seafood market, where the lab in question had been studying bat-to-human transmissibility of coronaviruses, it's quite clear that the Chinese government needs to close its mouth and acknowledge that this in fact did come from Wuhan, Hubei, China. I did not get into any conspiracy theories. I'm not talking about bioweapons or biolabs or anything of the sort. This was all public information on the Chinese internet, published by researchers, scientists, and doctors. With the CCP's all-powerful control to hide everything it can, the truth usually still finds its way out. The Chinese government should cover their tracks better next time if you're going to blame this on Italy or the US or whatever is convenient to your narrative. The CCP's incompetence and clear understanding of the coronavirus and its danger on a scientific level, and then going on to silence those who wanted to warn the public and letting the virus spread for months, is the reason the entire world is infected with a deadly pandemic. The Chinese government must be held accountable. Please make sure that you're all self-quarantining if at all possible. Most things are available for delivery, so please don't go shopping unless absolutely necessary. Make sure you're wearing a mask and gloves if you do, and
What's let me see. This is old news. What do you mean? Wang Yanling. See, this. Please hit subscribe. What links are in the description? Links for proof. Well, I want to see what the Chinese people are saying about it. So this is what I do usually. Usually what I do is find all the keywords when I'm looking at foreign news, and then I just do like a deep Google search. So like you got to look at the original though. How do I get it so that it's not translated? I need to find this woman's name in Chinese. Paul's feet. You know what I'm saying? I don't want it to be translated. How do I untranslate it? Oh, show original. Is it that? Angling. Not all of it. Need somebody who. That's probably good. There we go. Need somebody who speaks Chinese. Let's see if there's been any news. This is old news, right? Nobody's been talking about it. It's from like a month ago. Here's something. 1 week ago, Sina. Looking for patient 0. This is like in February this year. This was from February. This was news on the internet that Wang Lenying, graduate of the Wuhan Virus Research Center, was China's patient 0. You've been following this from China for a month? No way of knowing the truth already if it did already started to the max. Truth is out there. January, conclusion of a study. I know. I could do a pretty good. Look at this. Is Apple's co-founder. Oh yeah, Steve Wozniak was. I mean, the thing I want to do is just find this woman. They haven't seen her yet? What was the significance of the woman? They're rumoring that she was patient 0 who got it first and died. Internet rumors claim that Huang Yangling was the patient 0. Look, these guys interviewed, this Chinese website interviewed somebody at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. He's saying that after receiving an anonymous email asking about the situation, I contacted Wang Yanling and asked about the recent situation to confirm her health. She herself also clarified in the graduate contact group that she is still alive, smiley face. And the rumors were self-defeating. They instantly cremated her. Well, somebody's got to talk to her. So now I'm just searching for her name to see who's written about her. She's all right. See, they need to show her. This is on Weibo. This is like Chinese Twitter. Saying online patient zero is not true. I mean, these are all talking about the rumors. I don't know. Doesn't seem like. Look, oh here, real time. See what people are talking about it now. See, these people saying, I didn't see Huang Yingling herself, nor did her family and friends come out to speak. How come there's no voice? Come out and make noise, they're saying. There's the whole 5G conspiracy too. Wuhan was apparently the first place in the world to have 5G. Yeah, why would she be patient zero? It makes no sense. They hired her after having the virus problem. Yeah, I know, they already identified it, right? I don't know. It would be interesting to find her though. They hired her to fix the problem. Let's see what they've, if anybody in the past week has published anything new about her. Doesn't really seem like there's been much new information. Patient zero's Takashi. These are all from February, basically saying it's not true. Look, here's somebody on Twitter. Revenge for Huang Ling. This person. Nope. He didn't tweet anything. Who's he following? Jack Ma. Nobody interesting. Patient zero is the people who came to hospital claiming we're the Wuhan market, probably. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think, here's NTD TV. What's that? This is from March 29th. This seems like an anti-China, they call it the CCP virus. This doesn't seem like a very unbiased place. China seafood market. I don't know. Well, if anybody finds the patient zero, let me know. You call it the CCP virus? You do. I've heard that from you. Yeah. Well, that doesn't seem like a very good way to refer to it. All right, guys. I'm gonna peace out. I'm hungry. Maybe I can try to find her tomorrow. That was fun though, right? Thanks for hanging out. Tell people to get people to watch this. Get people to watch me. And tell people that I want to edit their paper live. I want to try that. I might have to in the near future. I might have to change my hours or something. I'm gonna start doing a new assignment, so I might cut into this, but I'll be here tomorrow, 2 p.m.